Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse episode 253. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, is Matt.
I'm back.
Yes, the rotating door that is May, because next week it's back to just me and Connor.
Yep.
And then hopefully in the last week of May, or the first week of June, whatever that takes us to, I can't work it out right now.
I don't have anything planned, but
Yeah.
I feel like me and Connor tag in and out more than the Lucha Bros.
Well, yeah, it's been a weird month. I'm not used to having so many Saturdays be free. Like we've been doing recordings on Saturdays for so many long, and it's just for whatever reason this month it's been the weird month where we're recording on Thursdays or Fridays for a while. But it's a DC Comics podcast. We talk about DC Comics. We get together, we discuss all the books we've read, and it was actually quite a hefty amount this week, both in book number, but more importantly in page number. More on that in a second, but this is the list of books that we'll be talking about today. So coming up we have DC Festival of Heroes, the Asian Superhero Celebration issue 1, which both myself and Matt did find time to read. That was 100 pages, which is why it felt like such a heavy week.
Yeah, and I felt like we kind of needed to, just because of the, there's so many characters that we do like, so I made extra effort to get it in, despite the 100-page.
Yeah, I think more than anything is we don't want to not support the sentiment that the book exists for. So.
Yeah, that too. But like, you're gonna dangle Emmy Queen and Connor Hawke and Damian and all these Cassandra Cain. Like, I can't not read it. And so I messaged Pete earlier in the week going, "Hey, I think I'm gonna make time for this, even if it kills me." And it almost did. So, shouldn't read and drive. That's what I'm saying.
So we have that. We also have Batman the Detective issue 2. We got Superman 31, Wonder Woman 772, Justice League The Last Ride issue 1. No affiliation with The Undertaker as far as I know. Future State Gotham issue 1, Batman Urban Legends issue 3, and then rounding out with Rorschach issue 8, which is in many ways still the most anticipated book I had this week, just because it's always a good discussion. So that's what's coming up on the show this week. Now, it is worth mentioning because Joker issue 3 came out this week, and I hadn't read issue 2 because they put the price up without really any justification. And keep in mind, just before anyone corrects anything, I'm reading it digitally. There's no cardstock covers digitally, so worth mentioning. However, a patron is actually now making me read it, so it will be returning. It would have made sense to read issue 2 this week since the new issue was out, but obviously this week's list of books was so high, so I'll do that next week. But I wanted to mention that since the new issue was out this week.
Gotcha.
So, very cool. So there you go. That is the plan for the show. There's no news this week, which is actually kind of merciful given how many books we've got to talk about. But we do have one segment to do before books.
No.
Come on, Matt. It is a time-honored tradition now. For a whole month, we've been doing ComiXology Top 10s.
Time-honored tradition for a whole month.
Yeah, but when we get to episode 500 and it's been 250 episodes, it is going to be a time-honored tradition. And the legions...
And then keep it with the traditions. I'm going to complain about it for every week.
I would expect no less. So, yes, this is just looking at ComiXology's top 10 at the time of recording, which for the record this week is in Friday night, Friday night UK time, Friday afternoon Pacific time. So, number 1 is a Marvel book. X Factor issue 9 is number 1.
Is that the last one? Because I saw a lot of hubbub about it being Marvel canceled, meaning it's going to relaunch as something different.
I have no idea if issue 9 is the last one, then issue 9 is the last one. I don't know. The first thing in the description just says best concert ever, which doesn't necessarily indicate finale to me, but
No.
I don't know what that book's playing at. Number 2 is also technically a Marvel book, although again I don't really count Star Wars as Marvel in the sense that it's
it's its own imprint, right?
It's selling because it's Star Wars, not because it's Marvel. But that's issue 13 of that. 3 is also a Marvel book with X Corp issue 1, so I guess there's a new X-Men book this week. Then we finally hit some DC. What do you think the highest selling DC book, at least as of right now on ComiXology, is?
From last week, right?
Yeah, from these books, yeah.
Hmm. There's not a traditional Batman book, so I can't go with that one.
Mm-hmm.
I could go with Batman Detective. Or I'm gonna take a shot and go Rorschach because it's Tom King, it's Fornes. People like quality.
You're right, it's Rorschach. Issue 8.
Boom!
There's the highest selling, at least as of right now, on ComiXology. And you'll be also pleased to know that number 5 is Superman 31.
Hey.
And then number 6 is Batman the Detective issue 2. So nice little trio of DC books there. And then we're back to Marvel with Guardians of the Galaxy issue 14. Back to DC then with Wonder Woman issue 772. And then back to Marvel for 9 and 10 with Children of the Atom issue 3 and Fantastic Four issue 32. So, there's 4 DC books. It's not quite an even split, but it's close enough in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
So, pleased to see Rorschach still doing well.
Yeah, chugging along. Some might call it Tom King's masterpiece. By some, I mean me.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter. You mentioning that, yeah. Not far beyond the top 10. Joker and Justice League Last Ride are both kind of there.
I'm kind of pleased to see Joker not in the top 10, meaning like maybe they'll realize we shouldn't overvalue Joker and just do cardstock price. You know.
Yeah, it's funny because obviously it's still fairly well selling, but given that it is Joker, you would expect to maybe see it higher than it is. So maybe it has had an impact,
right?
And that maybe they have noticed, which would be nice.
Because I don't see the Festival of Heroes, which that's understandable because that's a big commitment, you know, or Urban Legends, and those are both heftier prices too.
Yeah,
so
Festival of Heroes is number 15 right now, which is not too bad. It's not too bad. Future State Gotham's another couple of entries down, so it's not a bad showing for those books. I'll just say I'm happy that Star Wars trade sale ended because the last 2 weeks were really hard to read because it was just all these Star Wars trades.
All Star Wars books.
Just getting in the way of actually dealing with stuff. But yeah, there you go. There's your ComiXology top 10 for the week. Since we get no real sales figures, this is what we go on. So cool, but I will not stretch out this week because we have a lot of books to get through and a lot of stories within said books to get to. So without further ado, we will kick off with the big one. We'll kick off with DC Festival of Heroes, the Asian Superhero Celebration issue 1. Obviously there's a whole host of creators throughout, which we'll get to. I suppose I could just read the table of contents if people want to.
Yeah, because I do like that they do this now too. Yeah, this is a fairly, I want to say it started with like Action or Detective, those big oversized issues. It may have
even been later. I don't know if it started with them because I remember it kind of being absent for a bit and then it kind of kicked in somewhere. But I mean, I could be wrong. Yeah,
well, I just remember it's fairly recent because they used to get these big anthologies without these. So I like that they have on there, and I also like that on this one, it didn't give away kind of who the story was about. So I got to get some surprises in here, you know, outside of Masks, which I had heard, because I didn't read this right away on Tuesday, but I had heard some things about that the internet was very excited about. We'll talk about it when we get there. But so outside of knowing that was the Ram V story and who it featured when it ties into, you know, but the rest of them were all very nice surprises.
Yeah, there's only one where the character names are actually in the title, so otherwise it's fairly thingy. So the first story is called Sounds by Mariko Tamaki with art by Marcus To. Then there's Dress Code. Well, I'm assuming these are vertical lists. Sometimes they can be weird with their order. But Dress Code by Min Lee and art by Chung Lee Win. And then Hawk and Kong, that's the one that's kind of obvious who it's about, by Greg Pak and Sumit Kumar on art. Special Delivery by Anise Adam Ansari with art by Sam Basri. So
I saw that name and I thought it was Aziz Ansari and I got very excited. I was like, oh man, I didn't realize he was writing comics. And I was like, oh no, that's a different name completely.
It's very different.
But just at the quick glance when I was looking at this table of contents, I was like, his middle name's Adam? That's new to me. Not Aziz.
No. Masks by Ram V, art by Audrey Mock. What's in the Box by Dustin Wynn, both writing and art. Family Dinner by Alyssa Wong with art by Sean Chen. And then we have Kawaii Calamity. Am I saying that right? Is that Kawaii? Is that how you say
Kawaii,
that?
yeah. I was
Kawaii?
gonna say so. Imagine, when back when Omega was in New Japan, and you'd hear the girls yelling Kenny with the shrill. That's how I always hear Kawaii. It goes real high up. Imagine you have to try.
On the subject of pronunciations with Kenny Omega, I did kind of pop last week when he pronounced gold as Gweld. Look at all the Gweld.
That guy. He's doing so much to make me hate him.
So
I'm already not as big as I respect his talent, but as a character, I don't like him. But that's the point. So, yeah. It's Kawaii.
Yes. Then you get Festival of Heroes by Amy Chu with Marcio Takara on the art. And then Perceptible by Pornsak Pichetchoto or Pichetchoti. I'm butchering that one. I apologize.
Yeah. That's a tough name, I think, for anybody. We'd have to hear it, I think.
Yeah, I need to know if it's soft or hard chiz and shiz, before I can even attempt. And Alexandri Tefengi on the art, and that may be slightly wrong, but I feel fairly confident, so I went for it. And then we got The Monkey Prince Hates Superheroes by Jinlin Yang with art by Bernard Chang, which is the new Superman team together.
I cannot wait to talk about that story, because talking about New Superman, that felt like an extension.
Yeah, there's actually that one and another one, the Ram V one, are both say at the end to be continued in some form later in the year. Obviously, Ram V's is pretty clearly just going to be in Catwoman, which is, I mean, it even says as much, I think, but it's that's fine. That makes sense. The Monkey Prince one, I don't know whether that's popping up later, maybe. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's get into it. The first story, Sounds, is a Cassandra Cain story, and it largely revolves around one of her core traits, which is the idea that she was trained and learned the language of martial arts and physical combat and body language long before she learned words. And she has one sentence the entire story, which is right at the very end. It's all about her not communicating back to Oracle, as Oracle's telling her that there's this thing to go do, and she rushes off to go help. She talks a lot about, and this is in her narration, of course, not the any speech, but it talks a lot about how this guy's meant to look like a civilian, but his body language, the way he's standing, it tells a story. It's basically screaming to her who he is and what he can do, and it's been able to listen for that rather than words that makes her so good at what she does. So it's really just a nice examination of why Cass is so good as Batgirl.
Yeah. Tamaki's shown that she has a real good grasp on, I was going to say on the Gotham characters, but now that I think about it, almost every character that Tamaki's written, I think she shows, I might not like the plot and where it goes in some of them, but it's never character. Like, she just gets these characters. So, and Cass is no different. Like, I desperately want Cass to show up in Detective Comics now.
Yeah, Joe, I think what's fun about this story is that it actually works both in current continuity, but also in the actual 2000s Batgirl. Because, I mean, Babs is back as Oracle now, and I don't think there's anything to tell us if this is set back in the original Batgirl days. Because I'd say how quiet she is feels more like 2000s Batgirl.
Yeah, but also she's practicing words. So, there's that, from what we saw in Tynan's tech, with her trying to do it, because the way in the beginning she's framing it as muscle control, which is how she understands language, right? Like, your mouth has to form the letters, and the mouth, is a blend of all these different muscles. But you're right, it could be. Like, they leave it pretty open, but given that Tamaki's writing current, I'm gonna edge it more towards modern.
Yeah, I think it's either what you want it to be. And, I think that works, and I kind of like the idea that it is current, but it actually still kind of harkens back to those days. Because there's no other Batgirl to shop. It's just Oracle and Cass's Batgirl, which is very of that time. So she saves this guy who she clearly is somewhat attracted to, but can't find a way to say anything. He asks her for boba.
Banana boba. Apparently, banana boba is the best. A lot of bees.
I don't know what a boba is, but
So boba is this tea that I think it's Vietnamese. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but they're like little tapioca pellets that are in the tea and they're sweet. I don't like it. It's got a weird texture,
okay.
So they're kind of globby. But you basically make milk tea in there. But apparently, according to this guy, banana boba is the best. And that line cracked me up just because with Cass, looking at words and trying to make all, the muscles make the sounds with the air, just hitting it with all those B's, and all the alliteration. I thought that added a nice little twist to the story.
Because I think earlier in the story she's talking about how words are formed with air, but vowels are a certain kind of air. But then to make S's and T's, you have to like, use your lips and your tongue to.
Yeah.
It was like a really in-depth description of how you form words, but it's just the way she thinks about it because she learned muscles first.
Exactly, and so I like that. Yeah.
Whereas for us, like other than maybe walking, one of the first things you learn to do is start to form words and communicate. So. That's super interesting. But he invites her, which is a bold move to ask the superhero who just saved you for a drink. But she goes home, takes off her bat outfit, and intentionally runs into him at the boba spot, the boba shop, and he forgets to grab a straw. She runs out after and gives him one, and you think she's not going to say anything. And she just says you're welcome and walks away.
Yep.
It's delightful. I will say they are here. I think the faces aren't to my taste, but for the most part, it's not a big deal because, Cass has like a full face mask. So it's only when we're really emphasizing the human faces that I'm not super into the art as much. But I think the actual her in the suit and the flow of all that stuff looks really good. I think.
Yeah, definitely. Because the faces are a little bit void of expression. Like they're very basic, like Barbara in hers here. It's just it's a concerned face, but it's nothing major. And then with Cass, it's kind of bare, although you get her expression across. So, but I'm more with you on that side. It feels very manga, where it's kind of simple, and that's how
to be fair, I get why in a book celebrating Asian superheroes there's going to be some manga inspired art. It's just not to my taste as much.
Exactly. So. It's not. I wouldn't say it's bad. Like the art's still good. It's
I think the colors are good.
The colors,
colors are good. Yeah.
So, but no, it's very enjoyable. It's I want Cass to pop up in Detective, which I know is asking a lot because what that book's doing is, Bruce doing his thing right now with zombies and whatnot, but throw her in the backup,
That's a casual thing. We're already going to a Green Lantern story, so I'm just going to actually, because I don't assume you listen to the episode you're not on, so I'm just going to throw out. I love Green Lantern issue 2, by the way, so I'm on board.
Good.
I'm on board.
Yeah. It was a nice change of pace. I am a little bit worried it's going to start airing into the Future State stuff that we didn't enjoy. Just because of the choices that they made to split up the lanterns the way they're doing, but the lore that they're playing with, I just love.
I'm not too worried because at least now there'll be context for any of that comes up. The problem with the Future State book was just that it didn't. It was just a fight with lots of meaningless, dialogue.
Yeah, with context it could be, but still, that wasn't Green Lantern. To me, this is still very much. The way that they split it up with you have guys that are on these planets and then the other ones that are going off on like a almost Star Trek style, right?
Just in case you've not read the last issue of Green Lantern yet, I'm about to spoil something in it, so just in case you use timestamps to skip over the books you've not read yet, I'm about to drop a huge spoiler for Green Lantern issue 2. See when the page turned and like the power battery just exploded, it was a legit oh shit moment.
Yeah.
I did not see it coming. So
and then the fallout of that, Major. That's a character that I enjoy.
Yeah, we seem to have like an actual death. I mean, we'll see how they play it next time, but they very much look dead.
Yeah. So
end of this show. So
rough times.
Yeah. So we have this. So I'm assuming because I've not been reading these young adult graphic novels that they've been putting out. So I'm assuming this is this character that they introduced in that.
So they're at the end of this book, they have like character profiles, which I thought was pretty cool.
Oh, neat, yeah.
And so that's where I saw this character pop up, and it very much draws his power from his love of his grandma. That's where he gets his will from. So to see that play out over this short story, it's 3 pages.
Yeah, it's a very, very short story.
It drove it home, and then when I read that little blurb in the back, it pulled it together. So
yeah, it's got, this is the dress code story by Min Lee. It's basically in the fight with the I've forgotten his name.
It looks like Arkillo.
It looks like Arkillo, yeah. Yellow Lantern, and he calls this kid's Green Lantern outfit a dress because it's got the front and the back.
Right.
I don't even know what you call them on their own, but it's like a traditional Asian attire, and
I think it's, forgive my pronunciation, I think it's an ao dai, which I'm gonna look this up to see what part it's from.
Go for it. But it flashes back to when someone said this when he was younger with his grandmother in a restaurant, and he made him feel uncomfortable, and his grandmother explains that at first I was told to blend in, but I'd rather stand out and be an individual and be who I am. And it's just kind of like it cuts back to the fight, and he just says, "Thanks, I made it myself." But because of all Green Lanterns make their outfit themselves, it's kind of the thing. So yeah, it's just for being only 3 pages, it's got a really simple point to make, and it makes a simple point, and it's I think it's actually fairly successful in telling a little story in 3 pages, which I don't think most 3-page stories can actually pull off.
No, because it very much was the spirit of this book coming out with all of the increasing harassment of Asian Americans. And so just to tell the story of someone being proud of that they're different, that, this is their culture they come from. And, I thought that was really cool. And like you said, it's in a 3-page story. It gets to it. It drives that point. And, I really feel where the Green Lantern's coming from. But it's pronounced apparently Ao Zai, and it's Vietnamese. So,
Ao Zai, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, and so I did like that. Just the whole helped me stand out from the crowd instead of blending in. And just the whole bullying actions, right? We see Arkillo mimicking what the bully said to when he was younger, But yeah, I like that story a lot.
Yeah, there's not much to add about it. It's really simple and straightforward, but it gets its point across. So there we've gone to the Hawk and Kong story, which is Connor Hawk running in. Now, I'm sure Matt might have got excited for a second thinking it was going to be Connor Hawk versus King Kong, but
no, but I'm just as excited because I miss this character so much.
Yes, New Superman. It's been a while, makes an appearance, and Connor Hawk is basically kind of pissed because New Superman is doing a lot of the saving, stealing a lot of the glory. Taking care of it. And Connor Hawk was out grabbing food for a family dinner, and it ends up getting destroyed in all the chaos. It's a big mech dragon as well.
It's super cool. I miss Greg Pak writing superhero stuff. Like I know he's working on his own stuff, but like I miss him over here in DC doing stuff like this. I think he's the one that introduced Cloonan back before Rebirth started, because there was that one issue that drove up in sales. I think it was like Superman 50 that introduced. So it was cool that he's coming back and working on that character.
Did he do a Superman?
Yeah, so it wasn't New Superman yet. It was they'd introduced the idea that there was another Superman in China.
No, I mean because he had a run on Action. I'm saying, did he do an issue of Superman? Because you said Superman.
Well, yeah. Okay, maybe it was Action.
Okay, that's what I'm clarifying. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember, but I think Greg Pak. Let me. I could be talking out of turn.
Yeah, because he had like I don't know, it was like 3 trades worth of a run on Action Comics.
Yeah.
In New 52.
Yeah, but no. So seeing him here and just the counter with Connor Hawk, they play off of each other so well. I recently started reading Kevin Smith's Green Arrow, just because it's been in my blind spot. It's very Kevin Smith, and I can't read more than a couple pages at a time because I feel like Connor reading Bendis. Like it's just a lot. However, he has the voices down, but it's just a lot. But seeing Connor there and then here, it's pretty cool. But yeah, and so the kimchi gets destroyed, and Keenan says that it's like a Chinese dish, which I'm looking for the name of it. Pao, I'm probably saying all these wrong. Pao Kai. And so, Connor's upset, shows up to a family dinner, empty-handed. And then there's a ring at the doorbell, and it's Keenan with, he flew to China to get the Pao Kai, even though that's not what it was. But it's the thought that counts.
Yeah,
and
he replaced it with something he likes. Yeah.
Yeah.
He replaced it with something he likes.
Yeah, it's what he knew, right? He thought the kimchi was this other dish. So he goes and gets it. And then Connor is standing in the door going, okay, thanks, bye. And his mom and aunt are like, no, wait, like, invite him in. He did something nice. And it made me realize reading this, and then later when we get to the Red Arrow story, that when you look at Green Arrow supporting cast, it's very multicultural. You have Connor Hawke, you have Emmy, right? And then and those are direct relatives to Ollie. You have Roy Harper and his background. I don't know if it's still canon. He was raised by Native Americans, right? And then he hooked up with Cheshire, and back before Rebirth, they had a kid, And it just made me think about how, like, up until New 52, Green Arrow was really inclusive, and it fit that character so well. And you kind of look now, and I'm glad that this book came out when it did, because it reminded me of that.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Maybe my favorite art of the book so far, I would say.
Yep.
That's
it's Kumar, and we've really enjoyed his work thus far. From Mambat and now, what's the other book that you recently worked on that we were fans of? It was
Jeez, I don't know.
It was in one of the anthologies, but it's been solid. Does the action really well here, and then, like, I'm not so much a fan of some of the faces, right? We've said that about, but here the exaggeration works. So, like, when the kimchi gets destroyed, and Connor has this big hanging jaw, it's almost grotesque, but it still works because his whole thing was to get this kimchi back to home for dinner. So yeah, it gets a little bit cartoony in parts, but it still works. I mean, that's my only real gripe with the art.
Yeah. There's a pen up next by Jay Lee of Raz Talia and Batman too. Which is very nice. And then we're on to the Damien story, which is Special Delivery.
Yeah.
And this is Bruce, saying he's got emails to do. He'll deal with the case of hand. There's people taking out pizza delivery guys in Gotham, and they all come from one place. But Damien, not wanting to wait to act, decides to investigate on his own. And does the whole thing where, there's a panel in here where he's like, I carry my mother's ruthlessness, the cruel ambition of my grandfather, and even the compassion of my adopted brothers and sisters. And it sort of shows you all the different aspects that go into the making of his character. It turns out, I actually this made me laugh, actually, that so the League of Assassins have been running this pizza place, and they wanted to kill all the delivery drivers, and they were going to poison them, but their shipment of poison got delayed, so they just came up with a different plan to start murdering them. That really made me laugh for some reason.
Definitely not what I was expecting, right? No. Like, not the pizza. So that was a nice little twist. I also like the payoff for where Damien's talking about, he carries his mother's ruthlessness and all that, and it says, I'm more vicious than my mother, more cruel than my grandfather, more cunning than my brothers and sisters, and of course smarter than my father. And I was like, that's Damien. Like, that's, of course he has to be like, yes, I'm proud of who I am, but I'm better than them.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. I'd probably update this by saying this is now my best favorite art of the book so far. But
oh wow,
I think What's funny about an anthology like this is that so many of the stories end up being just kind of like, here's who this character is, because that's what
Mhm.
you can do in 5 pages, whatever it may
Right.
be. And I think for the Green Lantern story, because we've not really encountered that character, it was a very interesting. It was like, oh, because we're discovering who this character is, and it is actually a very good snapshot to get a point across of who they are, what's important to them, and all that. With Damien, it's a little bit less effective because it's like, well, we know Damien, we know Damien very
Right.
well. It's more just reaffirming who he is. So it feels less important as a story, but it's well told in what it's doing. So
Yeah. I mean, and in an anthology, you kind of need these smaller ones, right? Like that just come in and allow us to enjoy that character, you know?
yeah. So then we go on to the Ram V story with Audrey Mocha and art. This is uh, the new Cheshire, basically. Or
Yeah. So in help me figure this out. So we saw Cheshire Cat in Future State, right? And it was
mhm.
a big like, who is this? Like, because Ramvi was like really going out of their way to point out that there was a character called Cheshire Cat. And then I think he had mentioned like on Twitter, we know who this character is, and you can put it together. So just the fact that there was this mystery on who Cheshire Cat is, and it was staring me in the face the whole time. However, who it ends up being, there's so many more questions. And I love him for this. This is the type of stuff why I love DC continuity, like just to see someone come in and go, oh, well, this character was gone, but how can I bring them back? And why are they important to the story? And like just how this character fits in with Catwoman, I love it.
Yeah. It being kind of a crossover between Cheshire and Catwoman's an interesting touch because obviously
Mm-hmm.
Cheshire is a cat, so
Right.
you have kind of a thematic connection there. It's funny because the start of this reminded me a lot bizarrely of the Super Mario Brothers movie because Cheshire leaves her to be an
Mm-hmm.
orphan on a
Right.
doorstep, but just it gave me vibes of
Yeah.
that. But no, we see her. She's one of the alley kids in
Uh-huh.
Alley Town, and she's under Catwoman's sort of uh,
Tutelage.
tutelage. There you go. That's a good word.
Yeah.
But she's got a mask now. She's got herself a Cheshire mask,
Mm-hmm.
and she goes after some bad guys, some thugs on her own, and beats them up. Kind of as an amateur vigilante, and
Mm-hmm.
seems very proud of that. Catwoman shows up to help though.
Yeah.
And ultimately they end up on the rooftop at the end, sort of bonding, and I really love where Selena says, "Well, I've got a friend who would probably say this." I love that the speech bubble has bat ears when she's sort of
Yeah.
doing the Batman voice. I thought that was a really, really nice
Mm-hmm.
because it wouldn't work in other contexts. I mean, I suppose.
Uh-uh.
Does anyone ever do a bat impression if it's not meant to be funny? But she is making fun of him, kind of here.
Yeah.
She's mocking him a little bit.
To me, I read that in the Christian Bale voice, right? Like, that's what those pointy ears mean, you know? Yeah, and God, man, I never thought I would love Catwoman as much as I do now. It's just one of those times where, in the right hands, the characters just really come alive. It's what we've also said about, like, Tom Taylor doing Red Hood, right? We're like, I can't believe Taylor's done this. And not that, like, Catwoman and Red Hood are on the same, but I've been kind of agnostic towards Selena. Like, she's fine, from the stuff I read her in. But here, just like her turning and basically breaking the fourth wall, right? We know she's looking at Cheshire Cat or Shoes, but she's looking at us too, breaking that fourth wall, doing the Batman voice. And yeah, in case you had any mystery of it, they put the ears on the speech bubble,
Yeah.
in case you couldn't put it together. It's real nice. So can we talk about who Shoes really is?
Go on.
Yeah, so back before Flashpoint, Roy Harper and Cheshire were, they had hooked up and had a kid. And Cheshire, being the terrible assassin she is, left this baby with Roy Harper. So he was single dad superhero. And it was one of his defining characteristics for the longest time. And then I want to say mid 2000s in Cry for Justice, Prometheus blows up a big chunk of Star City. And Leon, who is the daughter of Cheshire and Roy Harper, is caught in the blast and she dies, and it leads to, you know, Roy Harper going back in and falling back in with his demons, with drug abuse and all of this, and it was something that had really rocked the character. Yet now Ram V's coming in and retconning it, that it seems like somehow Lena survived and she's been raised in Alleytown. And now she's one of Selena's orphans. She goes by the name Shoes. So do we think that Selena knows who she is? I mean, there's so many questions. Does this mean that does Cheshire know she's still around? You know, well, how is this going to play in with Roy Harper? Because we know that Williamson has something with him planned from Infinite Frontier. You know, yeah, it's just a whole bunch of stuff, which people might say that this is kind of cheap because, you know, she had died and that was the thing that had pushed Roy Harper to be, you know, part of his story. And you wouldn't say that she was fridged because the death really meant, like, it really was this. It wasn't just her shock value. It was this big beat. So to kind of undo that and not put her here.
And it's just on that, on that point, the dream she has, because, you know, the flashback, as it were, is she talks about it like it's a dream. Yeah. When Cheshire, like, picks her up, it's not like she's dropping her off as a baby. She finds her unconscious and there's like smoke around, and then she drops her off as an orphan when she's already, you know, whatever age she is here in this flashback. It's hard to tell. Maybe, I don't know, 6, maybe 5.
I would say, like, you know, not a toddler, but not like, maybe like kindergarten age, right? 5, 6.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so like this dream is like, is this the explosion? You know, like, so yeah, like, because she says goodbye, Lotus, be safe. So, like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably get to stuff like that down the line. I don't think it's going to be a concern super quick, mainly because I feel like they're going to want to build her as her own character now that she's old enough to actually have her own sort of, you know, journey and process and all that. And, you know, Catwoman's advice at the end is, you know, sometimes these masks just let us be who we actually are rather than hiding who we are. And that's kind of interesting. Now, don't get me wrong, it would be a really weird missed opportunity if at some point down the line there's not some sort of reunion or discovery between the characters. I would say that Cheshire definitely knows.
Okay, so there we go, because I missed that. Like, not that I missed it, but like, I just, her dropping her off that way, I didn't connect it. Because again, cramming 100-page plus everything else, you know, you tend to read.
I mean, assuming we can take this dream as fact, which right now I have no reason not to. It does seem like she knew she survived, and for whatever reason didn't give her back to Roy. Didn't see that as the right path, and did this instead. So there's a lot of stuff in there to explore at some point or unpack at some point, and then maybe that'll be an Infinite Frontier. Maybe that's where it'll all happen. But it seems like here she's going to be a primary supporting character in Catwoman, which it hasn't even really done. I mean, maybe has she been in the main book yet? I mean, I know she's obviously in the Future State stuff with the mask, but Shoes has not been like super prominent in the main book as of yet.
If I remember right, it's only really she's been mentioned.
Yeah.
Like, there's a character named Shoes, and that's why when people are asking about Cheshire Cat, I just remember him on Twitter saying this is a character that we're kind of familiar with, but, you know. So,
yeah, like, I think she's around maybe when we first get introduced to all the kids. She's like around in some of those scenes, but I don't remember her having like a prominent story.
Just the idea almost of her like this. I know this is not Selena's Robin, right? But just the idea that she's almost picked up this from Bruce, like gathering these souls to help them along their way, and it just happens to be, you know, the daughter of Roy Harper and Cheshire, however we're pronouncing it. I go back and forth, but yeah, I just think that's really cool. Like, it builds that interconnectivity that I love in comics. You know, like, you don't have to read everything, but again, just the fact, like, now this connects the Green Arrow worlds and the Batman world, and it's just like, it's this big community of heroes. You know, man, V's killing it. Swamp Thing, Catwoman, you know. Still waiting for my Savage Shores. So those are still delayed for whatever reason. It's been a month and a half. Should have ordered it on Amazon.
No, this is neat. And I really do appreciate there's a couple of stories in here that actually have some knock-on effect for things going forward, and this gives us something to be excited about. It's not just a standalone story; it's got some relevance in the larger scheme of things. But yeah, maybe she will kind of become a Robin in a weird way. This will be her version of whatever that is. So, still a cat though. They couldn't think of like a subcategory of
no.
Of cat.
You don't want to call them her kittens, but you could.
I suppose you could. Maybe just take a page out of the Leo DiCaprio page and call them the Pussy Squad.
Oh boy.
No.
No, I wouldn't.
Nah, probably not. Probably for the best. Yes. If anyone's not aware of what I'm referencing here, this is a thing. Go look up Leonardo DiCaprio, and I think Tobey Maguire and some others were in a group that was. Wrestling had the Click, Hollywood had the Pussy Squad. And you know, if Molly Bloom can be believed from Molly's game, they weren't exactly the nicest. So kind of like the Click. What do you think about it? Yes. No, very good, very good. So very good. Moving on then to another very quick cast story. Right. Do you know who this other character is? Because I have no idea.
Nope. Not a clue. I was like, is this supposed to be Clayface? Because we know how close Cass and Clayface became in the pages of Detective Comics. But I have no idea. I mean, because when they say hey man, people call me a monster all the time. That's all I could think of. But why does he take the form of a little redheaded child?
Yeah, that confused me. I didn't get the form that he was taking. I get that he maybe wants to sit there and be more human with her, but I don't know why he wouldn't just be, Basil Carlo form. Yeah,
because as far as I know, Basil Carlo's not a little redheaded child. No. But I guess Clayface can be who you want. But I don't know who this is supposed to be. I feel like I should.
Well, because it says Monday meeting, and if Clayface, I guess, makes sense if you think about it being set during the detective time. Although she's not wearing that outfit, she's got a bat logo on her. So I don't know. But the idea is that there was a bat meeting of some kind, and Damien might have said something mean to her like last time. Yeah. So she didn't show up, and then he's like, "What's in the box?" And it's food, and then that's the end of the story. So it's very short. It's very, very short. I don't know what to make of this one, to be honest.
No, me neither. And I loved Wynn's art. Like, that's some of my favorite. So I was a little bit disappointed just because, like, this kind of felt like filler, Like, I don't know.
I don't think it helps that we already had such a great cast story early on in the book.
Yeah. So I'm looking it up because I typed in, Dustin Wynn and the story. Apparently this character's name is Abuse, who first appeared in Detective Comics 947. Abuse finds Batgirl sitting by a bridge upset at a comment made by Damien. So, sure. Okay. I'm gonna find out who this character is and why. I mean, do they have a relation with Cass? Like,
that's an issue that we did on the show. That's post the start of Rebirth, I'm sure.
No, that's from 2008.
Oh, is it? Okay. In that case, really? Yeah. What number did you say?
What it says here. I gotta go back. I might have flipped the numbers because I was reading fast.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say because you said like 9.
Yeah, hold on. My computer's being stupid. Here we go. Dress code, no mask. No, What's in the box? There it is. Yeah, 947. It says October 2008.
But Detective didn't hit 900 until the New 52.
I know. So unless they hit 2018 and they made a mistake, I don't remember ever meeting this character before.
The reason why I remember that is because they made a whole big deal about it. Could remember the 900? There was like a group called the 900 in that special issue in the New 52.
Yeah.
So,
let's see. So first appeared in Batman Streets of Gotham.
Okay.
So that's definitely not. So they made a mistake. Someone needs to go edit that page.
Which I have read that, but clearly this character is faded from my memory over time.
Unknown protector of abused children. He is known to the current Batman, but is claimed to have a run-in with the original by telling Grayson that he didn't expect Batman to remember all his little helpers. Something to do with Zaz. Yeah. So apparently he's a protector. He has 2 appearances in Detective, but he came from Streets of Gotham, and that was back then. So I think they just mixed their numbers up.
Interesting.
You know?
Okay.
But yeah, he looks like a big, looks like, I would say like when the Thing wears a trench coat.
Yeah.
That's kind of his vibe.
But he shrinks into a
little guy.
A wee ginger.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess because Wynn maybe had a hand in creating this character, maybe that's why he decided to use them. But I do like the sentiment of it. It's this guy coming to sit with her, and comfort her, which is nice. Yeah. Created by Paul Dini and Dustin Wynn. So there we go.
That's why Dustin Wynn used him then, because he was there when he was created. Next up is the Grace Choice story with Thunder and Black Lightning, and I was a bit mixed on this one. I don't know how you felt.
So I liked the sentiment of it because I missed this pairing. I loved when I read Outsiders. I loved Grace and Thunder. Grace just as a character was fantastic because she had this mystery to her. It wasn't really revealed. She was a Bana Migdal Amazon, and she was just this big, strong bouncer lady. And shocker, I like that vibe. Punch first, ask questions later. And then she had a whole relationship with Black Lightning's daughter, and it was like this nice character dynamic. However, some of the dialogue in this is real rough, and like part of the story kind of rough. But I'm gonna just take what I can and be happy if this is a reintroduction to Grace and Lightning and Thunder back into DC, especially with what they're doing with Black Lightning and Outsiders.
Yeah, I think for me it was because the whole premise of this is that Thunder's taking Grace Choi to like family dinner to meet Black Lightning and her sister, and it's. I feel like because of the sentiment they wanted to get across, which I agree is a nice sentiment, but they had to they had to make Jefferson just be kind of a dick, just to make it work, so the story could happen. He had to be. I don't like my daughter hanging around with the likes of you. You put her in dangerous situations and blah blah blah.
Yeah, except they're superheroes, and you should have accepted this by now, pops.
Yeah,
you do it every day.
She already puts on an outfit and goes and acts as Thunder. Like this is a very
Now, if it was like, being that he's a principal, right, and a little old-fashioned, he's like, I don't like the fact that you're covered in tattoos, like something along those lines. But the whole you put her in danger, no, she puts herself in danger every day. Like we all do this. We're a superhero family. It was just a little bit weird, but I did like Mammoth and Shimmer showing up, and them basically teaming up to take them out.
Also, the bit where he complains that she's eating sushi with her hands, I thought was a bit it felt forced. It was like, wait, why is he complaining about that?
Well, yeah, and he goes, "You eat onigiri with your hands," and so, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I'm just a sucker for the disapproving parent that gets one over. That might just be me bringing my own personal stuff into it. But. Yeah, it was like you said, it was hit or miss, but I did, I like seeing Grace back. So I hope this is not the only time we get to see her, especially with what we'll get to. I forget from the Outsiders. There's some unfinished business in the pages of Urban Legends.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see her show up there. I don't know.
So yeah, a bit mixed on that one. Another pin up next by Gurihiru, with a variety of characters.
It seems like they're all the Asian characters, which of course, which I forget that
it's not all the Asian characters.
No, but the Titans, because I was like, wait,
sure,
what is I forget that Jay and Irie are Linda's Asian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I was like, oh, it's the Teen Titans, and then I started looking who it is, and I was like, oh yeah, dummy. What book are you reading? I just saw a Kid Flash there, and and then you have Eugene. Is that supposed to be Taki Tani down there at the bottom?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't know how else it would be. So.
Gotcha. But yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, cool. And then we have the Emmy story. Which kind of falls into almost what the Green Lantern story was a little bit. The idea of not being ashamed of your own culture, heritage, whatever. Because Emmy is having a nightmare where, and I will say the art was a little off-putting to me here because it was her fighting like big, cute, like Japanese cartoon, style creatures,
anime.
Yeah,
and as we know, both of us are the ones that
I know.
So, but we love Emmy, so we will struggle through stuff we don't like.
Yeah,
for Emmy Queen.
Yes, so don't like anime, but we'll put up with it. Emmy, that was terrible. I'm sorry.
Hold on, Emmy, anime, and no, yeah.
You're gonna end up saying enema, so stop it.
Exactly. So I stopped with an enemy.
Yeah. So and then Emmy says, I hate this cute shit because everyone calls me cute and I hate it, and it's sort of you're supposed to like cute things because you're Asian. And the animal creature looks sad and but that's based on what other people say. What that's not based on what you actually like or dislike or anything. And then it shows her a sort of cute version of her cuddling with a cute, a cute version of that.
With that thing, whatever that was, the kawaii Momo-chan. There we go.
Yeah, and she wakes up and she does have a little stuffed version of this and hugs it, and that's the end of the story. So, yeah, I mean, it's sweet enough.
Yeah, again, more Emmy, please. Just hook it into my veins. Again, another Green Arrow character that I love and can't explain outside of, I just enjoy their vibe. Yeah. So.
Yeah. There we have Philip Tan and Sebastian Chang pin-up.
Karate Kid from Legion Superheroes, getting very much Enter the Dragon.
Joe, I'm very glad you knew who this was because I had no idea.
Come on. Of course I know who it is.
I mean, is anyone surprised that I didn't know who the Legion character was?
No, not at all. But this is very nice. I do love. If Karate Kid was in my favorite Legionnaires, I would definitely,
I think my reaction to this was, who's this Street Fighter looking asshole? Like that was my.
That's not Iron Fist. His collar is too high.
So then we have Festival of Heroes by Amy Chu and Marcio Takara. This is Katana with Cyborg and Blue Beetle along for the trip. And there's basically a festival. I mean, it's literally just like almost a literal version of what the book is. It's a Comic-Con of celebration of.
Yeah, it's a heritage festival. It says right there. It's the Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Festival. And it's in New York City. And of course, you have some jerks that are being overtly racist. And the heroes are gonna have to put a stop to them. I love the sentiment of the story. I just wish the execution was more of a scalpel than a sledgehammer. However, the fact that this story has to be told is why we can't do it with a scalpel and instead have to do it with a sledgehammer.
Yeah, it's just it's the kind of thing where you've got the slice of life moments where they're running into cosplayers that they recognize and arguing over food because Cyborg's got the last
Rhodey. What is it? A Rhodey wrap?
Yes. Yeah. I never heard of a single bit of food that was mentioned in this story.
You know what a spring roll is.
Okay. I take it back.
Yes.
I know spring rolls.
Chinese, but I know you know what a spring roll is.
But there was many other things mentioned here that I have never heard of, which is presumably because there's not only is there more in-depth cuisine here that I've not encountered, but probably just a lot of other culture cuisines that I've never even had a chance to encounter.
Yeah. I mean, don't forget, they are in New York. New York's kind of a melting pot. Different cultures. So, yeah. I
mean, because earlier on we're talking about Vietnamese food. I've never had Vietnamese food or had the option of even looking at Vietnamese food. So, But yeah, so they're there to help protect things, and part of the story as well is about other cultures being there to help out, which is kind of what Blue Beetle and Cyborg represent, because they're both people of color, but they're both people of color of different cultures.
Right.
So you've got that there. You've got these assholes with the masks and who are wanting to cause chaos. It turns out they've actually got a stone that's giving them superpowers, so it's actually more of a fight when it does break out eventually.
Right.
But Katana slices the thing in half, and then all the actual just like the senior citizens start throwing fly kicks and stuff.
Respect your elders. I love it. Anytime I can see a racist get beat up, I'm fine with it. Like.
Yeah. I kind of want to see more with the guy with the walker in the background.
Yeah.
I want to see him with the walker hitting people with it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and that's basically it. Some of the Justice League. Although interestingly, it's Nubia and not Wonder Woman who shows up with Batman and Superman at the end.
If you're reading Wonder Woman, you'll know that she's stuck in the realm of the dead. So she's of course Nubia's going to come in.
That story didn't necessarily have to be in continuity.
No, but I'm kind of glad that it was, because it also, again, there's some stuff in here that's heavy-handed, but not in the heavy-handed where I rolled my eyes. It was heavy-handed where I just wish there was a more nuanced way to say some of these things. However, I can't find a more nuanced way to say things, so I feel weird criticizing it. But like the lady in the beginning, where the sentiment is these jerks are, they're like the Knights of Brotherhood or whatever, basically tell her to go back where she came from, and she's like, my family's been here since like 1890s or 1860 something. I'm born and raised in Seattle, and just the fact like we have to bring account to that because it's 2021 and that's still sentiment from terrible people, or what was the other one in here? There's a thing that that Blue Beetle says about how he's El Paso Mexican, so he gets the two different cultures and stuff like that. And just having to point out that like everyone comes from somewhere, and I just feel like in 2021 we should be able to do better. But the fact that DC's taking time out to tell these stories and the Festival of Heroes, it's just disappointing, that society's at that point. But overall, it's a fun story,
I mean, comic books have, for the longest time, since the creation of, in part, been here to tell stories like this, and no, I mean, not always for the better. I mean, there's some stuff from during wartime that were straight up propaganda.
Oh,
so
I mean, just the main villain of Detective Comics is a Asian stereotype, from back then, that's who Slam Bradley was showing up to fight.
But I mean,
the fact that we've come so far.
But there's that famous panel from like I think it's like the 50s, but it's like it's Superman talking about racism or saying anyone who does this isn't a real American anyway, or and there's like stuff like that, and it's like, so even from like a very early period, the idea of having encouraging messaging in the books is important. So, again.
It's not Amy Chu's fault that she has to tell the story, or she felt like she needed to tell the story. And that's what I'm more disappointed by. It's more of a societal issue than what happened here. I'm just glad that it ended up being a fun story that you can poke fun at the racists, because they're going after people for the stupidest reasons. And it's just like, love your fellow American, love your fellow human. But hey, I like seeing Cyborg do stuff that's not teleport people around, so that's a win.
I mean, Blue Beetle and Cyborg mostly argue over food in this story.
That's fine by me.
Mostly argue over food. There's a pin-up by Francis Manapul. It is the current Swamp Thing, so nice to see that character getting a little representation in the book. And then we have a Kevin Wada pin-up.
That's Shiva.
Very, very pretty. Jen Bartel pin-up, a Cheshire. So, I don't know why they put like a bunch of pin-ups back to back here when they've been kind of spread out up until now, but whatever. I mean, I'm not organising the book. Then we got our Ryan Choi story, where he's in someone's body, fighting off a virus that's been sent back through time. Which
Yeah.
they overcomplicated this a little bit. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure this team that he's talking about from the future, the Justice League of the future, are working with the present day heroes to deal with. But essentially, something was sent back through time so that eventually the right descendant would just, get sick and die effectively. So Ryan Choi's in there fighting off these things, but his belt gets damaged, so he has to try and grab the last parasite quickly. And sort of like jumps out the body as his helmet's cracking. And like flies out the guy's nose, and it's kind of a it's an interesting visual if nothing else. So, and it ends with him taking Bruce to, the person that he just saved. There's someone who works 80 hours a week, 3 different jobs just to make ends meet, and basically explains that there's a lot of people who do this, but no one seems to notice. Not everyone seems to just kind of let people blend into the background. And Bruce is like, okay, how do I help? I'm a billionaire, and you have got the brain to help, start working on this. So what do we do? And that's just kind of, that's a sentiment about working together again. So, I probably enjoyed this one. I mean, a little bit less, just because I thought the story itself was a bit weird, and unfulfilling.
I do like where it goes though, with Choi telling Bruce Wayne what he does. It's like, because you think at the beginning that they're saving like a superhero, right? Like it's gonna be someone that we know, and then when it turns out that it's this dude with 3 jobs, and eventually he's important in the future,
which is the point in a lot of ways. I think it's because we keep saying that even when we don't necessarily love the stories, the sentiment's always on point, and I think it'd be weird to find a story in here that doesn't have a good sentiment, because it's kind of the point of the book in a lot of ways. But that's the best part. No, you're right. It turns out not to be someone important right now. It's someone who is either going to be important themselves later, or someone that as a descendant of them is going to be important down the line. Right. And therefore everyone's important, because no one knows who is going to give birth or have a grandkid or a great grandkid who is going to end up saving the world. Therefore everyone's important, as so.
Right. And you don't know their stories, and you can't just look over them. You just gotta treat everybody with respect. Real quick, this writer, Pornsak Pashashot, he's a Thai American. He was an editor for Vertigo, and he worked on like Day Tripper, The Unwritten, Sweet Tooth, Unknown Soldier. He's an executive at DC Entertainment, so they pulled from their own stable here. He has an independent book out through Image called The Good Asian now that I feel like I want to check out. So that's also what's cool about these anthologies, is that it gets eyes on for me, new creators. I can check out their other works.
There's a pinup by Jim Chung with Romello Ferrado Jr. And this is another sort of team one where there's just a lot of various DC Asian characters being represented. All from New Superman to Emmy to Katana to Cass, so on. So
Cheshire, Omak. Apparently Omak's Asian. I didn't realize this.
That's news to me. That said, one of the cosplayers in the previous story, the festival, were cosplaying as Omak. So I guess I didn't know Omak was Asian either. But there you go. And then we get to, which I think is the final story here, the Monkey Prince story. Which when I got to it, I didn't read the titles at the start, so I didn't read what the title was. So I got to this Shazam story, and I was like, "Who's Asian here? What's going on? Where's the Asian character?"
Wait, Savannah? Maybe it's a stretch. I thought it was gonna go Eugene, because again, like you said, I wasn't looking at the titles, and I was like, okay, well, Eugene's Asian, so maybe this is how Eugene comes in and saves Billy. I think the hench people might be Asian, but I thought that's a bit of a stretch, unless they become kind of the focal point of the story. That's a bit they save the day just being random scientists that are like, Savannah's gone off the
you could do that. You could sort of turn it into being about these characters who seem like red shirts at first but then become important. Like that was a possibility, but instead obviously the twist is that this isn't really Shazam that's been captured by Savannah. Savannah's actually been infected, because there's a weird moment here where Savannah says he's going to cook Shazam's heart and eat it when it's tender, And
Yeah.
it's like, you know what? For all the weird shit Savannah's been up to that I've read or seen over the years, I never thought of him as a straight up cannibal. This feels a bit over the top.
Yeah.
But that turns out to be the point, because he's actually infected with a demon, effectively, something from mythology.
Mhm.
And it turns out that Shazam is actually the Monkey Prince in disguise. And yeah, we get this new character. This is a Gene Luen Yang story, and it does say at the end that this is going to continue in some form later this year. So a miniseries, I expect, for Monkey Prince, perhaps, but he does not like superheroes. He does not like when the real Shazam shows up to help. There's a lot of conflict between them. Savannah's very all over the place. Also, his mentor character, Shifu, who's a pig-like entity. He shows up and he's trying to give him help. So, I mean, I don't know a lot about this character. This was mostly a discovery for me. This stuff.
So I know about the Monkey King as a legendary figure from, I like to read up on mythologies. However, the Monkey Prince being like, that's not my dad, sure, DNA, whatever. So I like the fact that it's not just, Yang doing his version of the Monkey King. It's what I loved Yang doing is taking a piece of Asian folklore or storytelling and turning it into superhero stuff.
Yeah. So there's a lot of action here. At one point, the evil spirit, tries to bite off Shazam's head. Which,
yeah, and it's a deer spirit, which shows how twisted this has become. It's
a hell of a visual.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of fun bickering between Monkey Prince and
everyone.
Shazam. And everyone really, yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
But the end of the story is kind of interesting because we find out that this is a young character, and they kind of reveal at the end is that, yeah, I mean, is it just me? Does it reveal here that his parents are the hench people? Yeah,
yep,
that's what they're saying.
They
So we have that, but then we also have the reveal that he goes to school with Billy. So they're actually friends in school, but he hates Shazam. So I almost think that we're going to get a Monkey Prince Shazam miniseries later in the year, but given all the setup at the end.
Given what Yang like.
Oh, Matt.
What?
Your mic has switched. You're on the wrong mic now for some reason.
Let me fix this.
I wonder, is this what your mic's doing now instead of doing the choppy thing that it used to do?
It's swapping between them.
Yeah, because I'm sure everyone at home can suddenly hear Matt sounds like absolute garbage, as well as being much quieter as well.
Oh my god!
He's fixing that. But yeah, it just says at the end, the adventures of the Monkey Prince continue later this year. Although, given that they've set up Shazam, Billy going to school with them, it feels like he's going to be a supporting character in it still as well.
Right.
So, good stuff. Oh, Matt's back. There you go.
There we go. Yeah. No, and if this is Yang doing Shazam, with the Monkey Prince, or the Monkey Prince for doing Shazam, I'm here for it. I miss that book, the New Superman, so much. And what Yang was doing with doing his own twist on different heroes and what those versions are, and like the Monkey Prince feels like the next step in that, right? Because this is him adapting the Monkey King legend stuff. And what does that mean? How he hates superheroes, yet he's friends with Billy Batson. It's a whole lot of fun.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to continue that. And the profiles at the back, it's worth mentioning there's some in there that didn't really appear in the book in any great capacity. It throws in Clown Hunter, of course. There's
Dr. Light.
Dr. Light, Element Woman's there. Gold Lantern is there. So yeah, a whole bunch of other characters there. I'm just sort of skimming through to see if there's any other ones that didn't pop up in the book. Tracy 13. Tracy 13 was actually on the cover, or was in like the pinup of.
It was in a pinup that we didn't talk about with Connor Hawk, done by. Is it Phil Tan?
Do I know why that confused? I think the reason why I skipped over that is because it comes right before the Connor Hawk story. So I looked at that as the cover to the Connor Hawk story.
Yeah.
And it's just occurring to me now that she never appeared in it, which.
It's the Cliff Chang. One, and it's a gorgeous, I love it. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
no, really cool stuff. It's these anthologies are always a mixed bag.
Mhm.
There's no way around that. Not every story is like a great
Yeah.
story on its own. But the sentiments are obviously very well thought out throughout the
Yeah.
book, and the cause behind it and the reason for its existence are very admirable. Also, the last page of the book is a sort of a really sort of cinematic tease of the Monkey Prince.
Yeah.
So again, to kind of maybe imply that there's going to be bigger things coming for that character in the future. It's weird to rate a book like this, but I mean, we can try.
Yeah, here's the thing. There's way more I enjoyed, and the stuff that I didn't enjoy, still pretty. Like, I wouldn't say I didn't enjoy it. It's like the Dustin Nguyen story.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's just kind of there, but the art looked great because it's Dustin Nguyen. But yeah, there's way more to like in here than there's to dislike. So, on a pass or fail kind of rating, I give it a thumbs up, and let people like you should read this.
Well, that's all nice and Matt,
Yeah.
but we don't do the thumbs up, thumbs down. We do an out of 10. So you're going to have to.
I thought I would get you to move and go. Yeah, for something like this, that's what we should do. But Curse has foiled again. I'm gonna give this an 8, just because again, there's way more to like than there's to not like, and I got to see some of my favorite characters again, like Grace Choi, Emmy, plus meeting a new one that I see that I'm gonna like with the Monkey Prince.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's always tough to rate these anyway, even when they're not like for such a good cause and reason. But I think looking the ones that actually have relevance are the ones that are most exciting. I think the Cheshire Cat and
That's another one.
the Monkey Prince stuff is definitely the ones that stuck out to me the most. But obviously, I love to get a bit more Cass. I enjoyed seeing Kenan Kong again. I think I'm going to nudge just a little bit below and go 7.5. But
Okay.
But it's very up and down. There's a few stories that are maybe a little bit just kind of the sentiment and nothing more. There's maybe one or two that are a bit more in your face or lack the story to kind of back up the thing. But generally speaking, though, you're not going to have an unpleasant time going through it and sort of getting a showcase of a lot of characters, many of which don't get as much time as these days. I think I feel much more negative on the Grace Choi story than you do, and I think that's maybe what's knocking it down that half point.
Maybe. So I'm looking up Monkey King stuff, and there's that book that gets brought up every once in a while that's through Rooster Teeth and DC, Ruby.
Oh yeah.
Apparently, that's a take on the Legend of the Monkey King and Journey into the West, which is where Monkey King comes from.
All right. Do not for the life of, please do not tell me that book is going to become relevant and therefore.
I don't think so, because it just says it has a character named Sun Wukong who is inspired by his namesake from Journey into the West. It currently has 7 aired seasons. To reference the mythical Sun Wukong here is a monkey Fornes, which is a human with animal attributes. Uses a staff in combat, though his splits into nunchucks and shotgun hybrid weapons. That's kind of cool. And can generate clones to fight for him, which I guess is a Monkey King thing. So maybe that's Monkey Prince as a clone. Maybe that's where that's going. But yeah. Because of course I have to know where this is coming from. But also American-born Chinese, which is the Jin Lun Yang, that was his creator-owned, almost autobiography, features the legend of the Monkey King throughout the book. He uses the story of the Monkey King's quest to become equal to a god to parallel his feelings of the main character, a Chinese immigrant who's struggling to fit into American society. So this clearly is a passion for Yang. And I am glad that DC is I don't want to say letting him do it, but offering a place for him to tell this story finally.
I mean, no doubt he had to pitch whatever he's doing. No doubt he had to sort of convince them there was a story worth telling. So we shall see. All right. Batman the Detective issue 2, Tom Taylor writing with Andy Kubert on the art. We have this team of white bat villains who are hunting people who were saved by Batman. And I will say I like this issue a little bit more than the first one. I'm still not
Me
loving
too.
the art, but
No.
I will say I do love because the issue starts with Batman interrogating like one of the ones who's he's caught up with, and he's dangling him off the roof as he often does, and he drops him, and then grabs him at the last minute with the grapple gun, blah blah blah, the usual stuff. And he lets him go because he wants, okay, I've got a tracker on him. I can learn more from him this way because he's not really going to say anything else. But when this guy goes back to his, his team and sort of explains what's happened, they're like, "Wait, you got away from Batman, right? Strip him and search him." He's like, "No, I changed clothes, I showered. There's no way there's a tracker." But of course, it's inside his body. Batman's injected him with something because he's Batman. Of course. And but during all this, when he's trying to argue how he got away, he says the phrase, "I almost died. I would have if Batman hadn't saved me." And then the leader brings that up, and he's like, wait, no, I didn't mean that. And then shoots him right there and then. I thought, damn, this villain just became way more interesting to me.
Yeah. So, and this is Taylor doing his brilliantly dark stuff like he did in Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Right? Because you see the gun go to the dude's forehead, and then, of course, you see the after effect of it, after the bang and the head throwback. But yeah, it got super dark. And then we also get Henry Ducard, which is always, kind of fun, showing up from, he's the one that taught Batman to be, the detective.
That's the other side of this. Obviously, there's a little bit more with Knight talking about Squire, who is, again, very argumentative with Batman still. But we get glimpses of this hospital that's underground in London that Batman was taken here once upon a time by Henry Ducard, which teases Henry Ducard as a subject for the book. And then later in the issue, Batman's on a train because this tracker's went back to France, so he's on his way there. And he's in the train, and he basically senses, and I mean, as much as I say I'm not like huge on the art, I'm talking about the faces. See when it's panels like the one where he's climbing on the side of the train, and then he's running on the roof of the train. That page looks great. Like, I love that page. Like, that stuff looks solid.
My main complaint with Kubert's art is it's so bulky. Like, everything is so chunky. Like, even look at Squire on that page early on where Batman's hanging him off of, I think it's Big Ben, right? Yeah, off the clock tower. And just Squire looks so bulky.
Not since Basil and Ratican has there been such an action-packed set piece at the top of Big Ben.
Yeah, sure. I know you look a great Mass Detective.
Name me another one. Has there been any since 1986? I don't think there has. I don't think you can name one. So
I'm sure one of the Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes movies had something at Big Ben.
Trash, absolute trash. Doesn't count.
No, those movies are fun.
Trash.
Trash. It's fun.
Absolute trash. So a bit of a fight breaks out between them, but they calm down, and Ducard is put together what's going on. The media will soon, and that does mean that anyone who's been saved by a Batman is going to start to be terrified because they're going to be targets.
Gotham is screwed if these people make it over the pond.
Yeah. So, he criticizes him for being too much of a loner and needs to work with other people, and that he should help him and they should work together. And Bruce doesn't want to because you're a killer, you're this, you're that. We're not doing this. But says, no, come find me, we can do this. Batman finds the body of the guy that he put the tracker in. And this is one of the things that I wonder if there's going to be any element of guilt here. I mean, we don't see too much here because we move on quite quickly.
Well, yeah, what is he supposed to do? Batman can't not save people. So now it adds us I almost feel like Taylor's trying to set up this dilemma where Batman's going to hesitate. But we all know Batman's not. You know.
Well, I mean more in this sense that he's the one who put him in the situation where he would have died had he not saved him.
Right. Exactly. And then let him go because that's how Batman tracks the people. Like if Joker had done this, Batman would feel the same way. Yeah. Kill the guy that is going to lead him to him. So
then we cut to Henry Ducard and we think Batman's there, and it's that sort of thing where it's just a dark, mask and cape and whatnot. But
Such a good reveal.
Yeah, but then you turn the page and the light's on them, and it's actually the white bat suit of the this woman who's leading this team. And Henry Ducard tries to be a badass and takes on like her and at least one or two of her allies.
Yep.
Batman's on his way there, but just as they get there at the end, the car is shot and thrown off the balcony and lies there dead. So that's our big cliffhanger. Now, admittedly, he may not technically be dead, because she says that, you know, the villain says, "Oh, he's going to save him. He always effing saves him."
Yeah.
But so I mean, maybe he'll wake up in a hospital next issue. But I mean, it's as far as deaths go, it's like 4 gunshots to the chest and like falling off a balcony to the ground.
Very reminiscent of Deadshot. Like he's taken any account away from you. You know.
Okay, I mean, I suppose technically Batman does catch him right before he hits the ground, but he's still been shot 4 times in the chest. That's not
right. If the bullets didn't kill him, the fall would have. You know, like it was done is done. And
What's funny?
Descartes,
doesn't this technically mean that they're going to want to come back and kill Descartes again because Batman's now technically saved him? If he does save him,
maybe they have a Lazarus pit and they'll revive him to kill him again.
It's double or nothing, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's the name of the pay-per-view.
It is. So yeah, no, this is so good. It's still not in my like. I don't think it's amazing. Like I've read, I mean, that's almost other Taylor stuff.
Yeah, it's not. It's almost. This almost sounds more negative than I mean it to be. But it's like C tier Taylor.
Yeah.
Which is still good. It's still solid and readable, but it's like C tier Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
So take that as you may, but that's kind of where I feel on it. It's like it's good, but it's nothing compared to some of his other stuff that like sends me into a tizzy. And apologies, the casual wrestling references that no one gets, other than the people who watch AEW. I do apologize, but occasionally they have to.
As long as you didn't do "I love you," I'm sorry, or "I'm sorry, I love you." We're good.
The Young Bucks are the best heels. Like their ring attire is getting more and more obnoxious every time they come out.
They're getting more obnoxious, as if that was possible.
It's delightful, but they're so scared of Moxley and Kingston, which makes it so perfect.
Because they're insane. You should be afraid of Kingston instead of Moxley. Oh man, that Nagano match was so good. That was a New Japan match on American TV.
It was. I mean, they even said at the start it was New Japan rules, which was cool.
20 cut out, but just the kicks and the forearms, and like I just want Ishii on Dynamite. Just give me that, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that shitty Inner Circle hose segment.
I haven't made it that far yet, so the last thing I got to see was the Bucks.
Okay, well,
yeah, I did watch the main event though because I don't want to be spoiled.
Yes.
But yes, so I'm done with that. I'm done with the Pinnacle. I'm done with the Inner Circle. There's more interesting things going on.
I mean, I'm into the Pinnacle for beyond this, and I think the match at the pay-per-view will be a much more violent, serious version of what happened last year, because there's no way it's going to be the comedy match again.
No, apparently he hit his Jericho dislocated his elbow in his fall.
Yes.
Tough times. But anyways, comics.
Yes, comics. Yeah, what are you rating? The Batman Detective
I'm going to give this a 7. It's perfectly serviceable.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you, 7. And thank you to David, who's going to have to edit out the wrestling talk for the split up version. So, Superman issue 31, Philip K. Johnson and Scott Godlewski on the art. So, I will admit, it took me a few pages to remember what the last issue was, because it dropped me in, and I'm like, wait, what the hell happened last issue? What's going on? And I'm like, the fallen being, and like this planet, and all the rest of it. More importantly, though, we're going sort of full Invasion of the Body Snatchers style thing here, where a lot of these aliens are being assimilated, and Clark and John, they talk to this one last alien who they think they can trust. By the end of the issue, though, he does betray them, and it's Clark's narration kind of talks about how he sort of reflected on this from later, and kind of ultimately comes to the idea that this was kind of the first time where it became about him relying on John to save him, and John alternatively thinks about how he's talking later to the alien about people always say it's just you to take the mantle of Superman, but it's not a mantle, it's who he is. It's not just because he has powers. There's so much to what makes Superman Superman.
It's the conversation I had when we were watching Falcon and Winter Soldier about, well, I say I had via Twitter about passing of mantles. It's not like Superman and Steve Rogers, right? They're both Captain America and Superman, but what makes them them is the fact that they're Steve Rogers and Clark Kent. And anyone that takes up the mantle is just going to be looked at as, you know, not a pretender, but, you know, they're not the authentic thing. And it has to be earned. And that's what I like with John here being like, you know, I'm not my dad. I'm going to be different. And I don't even really want the Superman name, but I feel like they're going to give it to me anyways, no matter what I do. And just the combination with that and the guy that he's talking to, who is the son of this, you know, this legend on this alien planet, you know, and how that contrasts with him, that he's afraid he'll never, you know, live up to his dad's standard, right? Because his dad was this legendary hero on the planet, and that's not him at all, and that he's ruled by fear. Just the dynamic between those two made some really good storytelling.
Yeah, no, I think this issue is a little bit stronger than the last one because it does get a bit more into the you know, there was so much setup I had to do last issue to explain the planet and explain what the context was and what was going on. This issue got to just be a bit more about what it meant to the two main characters and what it was saying about those two characters. So yeah, you do have the twist where it's a bit of a trap. This you know, entity comes after Superman, and the narration talks about how he basically has to rely on John being the one to save the day, and John finds out that this plan's kind of happening and flies off to go. And there's some great talk here of Superman hearing that he knew it'd be okay because he could still hear John's heartbeat. That's his favorite sound in the world is John's heartbeat. Yeah. So
that line hit me so hard because that is such a Clark Kent thing to feel, you know, and that because you know he always listens for Lois's heartbeat, you know, like he's constantly listening for Lois because she's gonna get herself into trouble. That's what Lois Lane does. But the fact that he's listening to his son's heartbeat, but that's his favorite sound, oh man, I was just like, not tears. It wasn't like Nightwing, right? But it was up there.
So the cliffhanger of the issue is, you know, the giant being getting back up. That's the big final page. Well, this is all happening.
Yeah, the one that fell.
So it's presumably strong enough again now that it's absorbed all these aliens and people to, you know, have the energy to do this. So it's a neat. I think it's a neat second part. I mean, it's still kind of, you know, like it has the sad comparison to be made to the last issue of Action Comics, which I thought was a real great issue. It felt like it was okay. This is where Johnson's run is really starting to pop and feel things. I like what this is doing for the Clark and John relationship. The actual plot with the aliens and the planet, though, is just kind of like, oh, this feels like, you know, when you watch a TV show and you've got that plot of the week. Yeah, it doesn't feel super important in the grand scheme of things. The actual plot, it's just like it's there to do the story for the characters, and that's cool. But
but again, I like the dynamic between the two sons and how they're dealing with it differently. You know, that the son, I'm not even trying to pronounce the names, but he basically sold everybody out because he knew he wasn't going to be his dad. Versus John taking that, you know, no, I'm going to try to be my dad, you know, and do my best. I love that part of the story. In the art, if I'm going to be a little bit negative, the art's kind of hit or miss. And I know there's two different artists, and it's Ratman, you know, trying to mimic Godlewski's art as best as they can. And that's okay. But, you know, again, it's hit or miss, but it still works as much as it needs to. Those designs, I think, are kind of weird of the aliens, are kind of hard to mimic because it definitely felt different from the last issue.
So, you know, not bad by any means. What are you giving the main story?
I'm going to give this an 8.5.
Okay. I'm probably going with 7.5. Like, I'm still not necessarily super feeling the actual plot, but I'm liking what it's saying about the two characters, and I'm liking kind of the beats that's getting out of those. But, you know, for me right now, Action is the book. What will be very interesting is when Action's in full swing and Taylor's on Superman. You know, what we'll be doing with that and the comparisons there. Basically, I feel like Serizawa and Godzilla, I just want to say, let them fight.
Oh boy.
Let the war wage. So that way, the backup is continuing the plot of the villains that we've had with all these B-list characters. So we have Loose Cannon and Gangbuster. Basically have a bit of a fight, and it seems like Gangbuster is being influenced
by something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, by what's her name? I forgot her name already. the villain.
Yeah.
Projectress. That was it.
Projectress.
There you go.
She's being extra aggressive, and Loose Cannon, whose name is Loose Cannon, it's like,
Mhm.
when the guy with anger problems calls you out for having anger problems, you done stepped in it.
Yeah, this was really short compared to the last two chapters.
Yeah.
Did the main story have more pages that I didn't notice?
I don't know. I don't know. But before we got going, I forgot that I had to read this.
Yeah.
And so I picked it up and I was like, okay, I'm done. And it only took you like 4 or 5 minutes, if that. And yeah, it was real short. But I had to look up Loose Cannon. Loose Cannon's been around since '93. It was created by Jeff Loeb. It's essentially a Hulk kind of character, but he has a alien. It's from the Bloodlines storyline. He has an alien attack triggering a metagene. But yeah, I guess he originally transforms as alter ego, and at night grows in strength and size. When he gets angrier, he changes colors from blue to purple to red, and finally to white with extreme range. So yeah, he's basically DC trying to do the Hulk.
Yeah, I really have not much to say. I did just count the pages. It was 8, which is actually more than I thought it was.
Yeah.
So I guess it just felt really quick, which
yeah.
I mean, I guess is good in a sense, but I don't know.
Yeah, it felt less than the Ambush Bug story, and they're probably the same pages,
Yeah, I honestly have nothing to say about it. I feel nothing from this chapter of this.
No, I don't. Bibbo getting hit and what, I don't know. I'm kind of losing my, I don't say patience for the story, but I like that it's trying to showcase different members of Metropolis, like these different heroes that are there. But I don't know what the point of the story is at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just not bad. I mean, it looks fine and it flows fine enough. Yeah. So I'm happy to give it like a 6, but I'm not. Yeah, that's not anything to say. I have nothing to really give an opinion on, really.
I'll copy the 6 as well.
All right, there you go. Wonder Woman 772, Becky Cloonan, Michael Conrad, with Travis Moore. So I'm not reading this anymore. So Matt, you're flying solo for this.
Here we go, and I'll try to make it quick. Because I could talk about Vikings all day.
Oh, I know.
But it starts with Wonder Woman in the belly of Needhog, the serpent that lives at the bottom of Yggdrasil, and basically she thinks that she's just gonna fight her way out of this beast's stomach, but basically the contents of the stomach start to poison her, and she dies again. And then she, sees the person holding the stuff up, and it goes back to the black and white, and the person's like, I wasn't supposed to interfere, but you keep messing up. So here's the key, and they give her the key. So she, gets up, fights her way out, Nidhogg throws her up. She gets the key and takes off with Radistok. Siegfried shows up and tells her that basically you don't want to mess with the Valkyries. Like this is bad news. And Odin confronts Thor and find out that the weapons that they're using, the reason the Valkyries aren't being able to take the souls back is that the weapons that are being made by the dwarves are cursed. And that Odin gets mad at Thor, that Thor should have been able to put this together if he was paying attention. All very much, I felt like Marvel Thor here. That, Odin's lambasting him for being himself, and if he was paying attention, none of this would have happened. But something kills Odin, right, as he's starting to put everything together. Wonder Woman joins with Thor and realizes like she can tap into her powers now, so she starts to fly, and they end up fighting this it's like sea god, this Norse sea god, and it reminds her of Arthur. And she's like, I know this name, it's very familiar, but I don't know why. So you get the point that her memories are coming back, and as she's getting lost in this, like, I remember Arthur because he smelled like a tide pool, and it wasn't a good thing. She gets crunched by this giant crab, and you come to find out that this person that keeps reviving her is Dead Man. And that, he was there basically to keep an eye on her because she's going through these different realms of the dead. And that she is basically getting caught up on the side quest, and she wasn't supposed to, and that, you know, she says that she has to save Yggdrasil. But Deadman's like, you know, Yggdrasil's an elder that's lived longer than most. If she dies, it's because the Parliament of Trees has deemed it so. So it's starting to tie this mythological realm more into the DC, you know, magic stuff that we're more familiar with. In that she ends up, you know, going on this mission still because she made a promise to Siegfried, which is all very Diana. Like, this is who she is as a person. So they go to this what's the name of it? Oh man. They go to this other realm, which is kind of like a realm between realms, where she ends up fighting like this evil, corrupted version of herself. Come to find out, it's Dr. Psycho, and that he's using the cursed weapons to make Draugr, which are essentially Viking zombies, and that that's the whole point of the cursed weapons and why the Valkyries can't save them, and that, you know, she's foiled him. But she knows that if he's trying to stop her, she's getting closer to figuring this all out. So they keep, it's called Merkvin, by the way, this realm kind of in between. And they get to a boat, and it's Odin, and they bring in, you know, the mythology that he's the Wanderer. He's, you know, he has a whole bunch of different names, and that he can take her to the, you know, to the Fortress of the Valkyries, which is where she needs to go. But, you know, they're not going to want you there because no one except for the dead can see, you know, the Valkyries. And you're kind of in between. You're neither, you know, the gods or the dead. So they're not going to like your presence. So it ends like him rowing up as the ferryman to Fortress Valkyrie. And it's like this big crystal cathedral up in the sky. It's very Kryptonian looking. And he says, you know, woe betide those who lay the mortal gaze upon the Valkyrie, except for you. And he goes, you know, I don't, you know, that's just a line I say. You know, so there's a bit of humor there, and that's to be continued. The art's still so good. You get the you know, the action is there. You get Diana teaming up with not only Thor, but Deadman. I thought that was a nice reveal. The Deadman's the one that's been, you know, helping her ferry back, because it makes sense as he's betraying realms himself. And now it seems like she's going through these different afterlives on a mission, and we'll get to see what that mission is. But yeah, it's still a really entertaining read. It's the first thing I read this week. I was very excited for it. And again, to see Deadman show up, and, you know, now that's playing with how he's been bringing her back, and playing with the Norse afterlife of Valhalla. It's all real good. I didn't read the backup, so I'm going to just rate the whole book. I'm going to give this an 8.
Sure. Yeah, that's cool. All right. Well, actually, I get to talk on my own for a bit, because I'm talking about Justice League: The Last Ride, issue 1. Chip Zdarsky writing with Miguel Mendonca on the art. I don't know if this is one you're going to actually catch up on, because I know that you just kind of forgot this was coming out.
I did, so I'll half listen while you talk, because I do intend on reading it still. So well,
here's the funny thing. So before I get to specifics, I was actually a little bit confused early on if this was in continuity, because there was some stuff that it kind of felt like, so there's definitely something that's happened recently at the start of the issue where the Justice League has disbanded, and has been disbanded for a while, and the Batman and Superman have some beef, right? Something went down, and they are not best of friends right now. And obviously that's not happened in current continuity, but I thought, oh, maybe this is just, you know, that'll just be in this book, because this is just set up that this has happened in the last few months or something. And there's some stuff about Green Lanterns where I thought, is this kind of tying into what's just happened in Green Lantern? And I wasn't sure. And I was like, it's not exactly 1-to-1, but it could become this. Like, is this actually giving us hints as to where that's going? And then, look, the very next page, Alfred was there, and I went, oh, okay, never mind. Never mind.
Very
Never mind. And then by the time it gets to the end, because then it reveals that a character died later on. Like the beef that Batman and Superman have, a character died who's definitely not dead in mid continuity. So it's not continuity. But I mean, it does kind of incorporate some stuff from continuity. Like, now characters like Jessica Cruz pop up, because there was a time when you wouldn't get new characters like that in the out of continuity stories. You would only get the classics, so that's kind of neat. But and admittedly, Hal Jordan's outfit at one point looked a bit weird, but I wasn't sure if that's just what he was in at the end of Grant Morrison's run. Like, I have no idea.
Sure.
So yes, so it starts off kind of Superman focused, and he's Lois is narrating and talking about how it's kind of getting to Superman a little bit that it is never ending. Like, he knows it's never ending, but he's kind of feeling it. She sort of sees it in his eyes, and she's worried about him. That there's always something else. There's always something next to go and save or go and he's adamant that he's fine. They're sleeping in the fortress for now because she's working on a book, which also felt in continuity, might I add, because she is working on a book in continuity. But he has this nightmare where he basically sees himself fail, where the Daily Planet globe, he catches it, but it's like infected with kryptonite, and this is all happening as other stuff's going on. And he wakes up screaming no, but there's a message from his old Justice League communicator, which is in a box, implying that it has been something that he's not been keeping on him for a while. And he goes to the watchtower, and everyone's like, well, no one's been here in a while. And I took this as, because the Hall of Justice is where everyone goes now. So this has been kind of, out of commission.
Mm-hmm.
Admittedly, I think technically it got destroyed, or it went away with the moon, and I don't know if it ever came back. But Flash and Wonder Woman are there. They're kind of not looking forward to what might go down here when Superman and Batman both get there. And they are very cold. They're very confrontational with each other. And eventually John Stewart calls in and says, look, we're not coming in personally, but we need to show you something. So through the Green Lantern communication, John Kilowog, who's wearing a hoodie, by the way, and Kilowog wearing a hoodie is a good look. Actually, you get the impression that he's been undercover, right? He's been trying to, not draw attention to himself. But
I'm excited for Kilowog in a hoodie.
It looks good. And Jessica Cruz are there. And they've basically got Lobo. They've got Lobo in chains, trapped. And apparently Lobo has killed the New Gods. And that's what they've arrested him for. And they need the Justice League help to figure out what to do with them, because he's got a lot of enemies. They're going to be going after him, and they want to make sure that he faces justice. And Batman says, F this. You don't need the Justice League for this. You get your entire Green Lantern Corps. And this is where I got really confused about continuity, because they straight up say that the reason why they're not strong right now is because a lot of their jurisdiction has been taken up by the United Planets. So I was really thinking, is this kind of tying into continuity? Because this is all very much what's going on and stuff. But yeah, so Superman says, look, we still need you. You're the one who has the mind that figures this out, and you've probably already thought of the perfect place to find him. And later on, when Superman goes to see Batman in Gotham, Batman insists on talking at the cave rather than out in the wild, fighting Mr. Freeze. Alfred's there at the computer, which is why I was like, okay, I guess we're just definitely out continuity then. But when Superman prods him and says, no, we do need you, we do need to help them, like, you've already probably thought of this. But he does get angry at one point. He punches the big penny. He gets a little pissed.
Oh, dang.
So he gets pissed, and it's like, you're thinking to yourself, okay, the characterization of Superman and Lois has been pretty on point, but there's been a couple of times where he snapped a little bit, which does feel a little out of character.
Right.
But when it comes up, what went down, I mean, I don't have the specific shit, but Martian Manhunter is dead, and this is apparently Bruce's fault. So Superman, there is a rift here. But the end of the book is Batman saying, okay, yes, I do know where to put him, the perfect place to hide Lobo and like keep him under guard and protect him. We have to go back to where this all started. We have to go back to Apocalypse. So that's the cliffhanger of the story. So now I come to Justice League book. It was meant to be digital first to begin with, or even digital only, and it changed. People wanted a physical edition. I don't know if retail is the ones who spoke up and said we want to sell this because it's a Chip Zdarsky's Justice League book. It's going to sell. But it's interesting. I mean, I do like that there's a clear defined like premise at the start. It's not just the Justice League are hanging out and then there's a call comes in because there's a crisis. It's like no, there's some backstory here with some mystery that we've set up that we're going to explore. The character interactions are fairly interesting. I like that the Green Lantern Corps are more of a factor in it as well. Curious to see what they do with it, and it's it's one of these things where it's not knocked me out of the I don't feel blown away by it by any means,
Right.
but as a Justice League book, it feels like a fine mini that it's going to go into some stuff.
Right.
So I'm into it, and the art's solid. Mendonca's always been kind of a dependable. I don't want to say house style, but he's kind of that one of those workhorse artists who they'll throw in a book, and you feel in comfortable hands. But you're never excited for Mendonca the same way you are for a lot of other names. But
yeah, Mendonca's style is DC.
Yeah,
he's gonna draw the Flash properly, Green Lantern, like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. Like you can rely on it.
Yeah, and one of my favorite pals is probably Wonder Woman just sitting there in her chair with the sword resting against it, and she just looks miserable because she knows that there's going to be a confrontation when they'll show up.
Right.
So, it's not bad though. I would probably, coming from Zdarsky, maybe I was expecting to be more blown away, but I am still definitely into it. I still want to read more of it and see where it goes with the story.
Yeah, you had me at Kilowog in a hoodie. So I'm gonna have to check it out for sure. Yeah.
And it's not even the full team doesn't even appear in this issue. There's no Aquaman, there's no Hawkgirl. Well, they appear, they may not just be relevant to the story, but it does kind of feel like the Skeleton Crew, where only a few of them have shown up to this call because they're all feeling, despondent because of whatever's happened to Jean. And maybe there'll be a reveal at the end that Jean's not really. Well, maybe it'll be in continuity. Maybe this Alfred's actually Jean pretending to be Alfred, and it'll turn out it's all been a ruse all along. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
But that would be a hell of a weird thing. It'd make us think it's not in continuity, and then swerve us later on.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, there you go. Justice League: The Last Ride. I mean, even the title makes it sound like it's this one final time they come together. So we'll see. We'll see.
Do they come out to American Badass or Roland?
I mean, Limp Bizkit or Kid Rock. I mean, what?
In current years, I will take Fred Durst to Kid Rock any day. So
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I probably would too. There's definitely more Limp Bizkit songs that I kind of like than
and the only good thing that Kid Rock has given us is that meme of him walking all spindly armed. Like you get the meme of me talking about something I have no idea about, and it's like this big chest all puffed out, and he's walking to the ocean. So
his best contribution to the world is that. So yeah, I'd probably throw this like a 7.5. Like it's good. I like kind of the plot that it sets up. It seems like a fun plot, but it does seem like a miniseries that's not the important big story that's going on, which is maybe a bit of an indictment, but ultimately not everything's going to feel that way, so it is what it is.
Yep.
So Future State Gotham issue 1. Well, I've written Hoshia Williams, but Joshua Williamson, and
maybe you say with a soft J,
and Giannis Milonogiannis. I kind of got that right. So that is so did you remember this was going to be black and white?
I was gonna ask you the same thing.
Well, the reason I knew before I read it, but only because Connor mentioned it last week. Connor was like, did you know this was black and white? I was like, no, really, no.
Me neither. So yeah, I'll just say a little bit disappointed in this one.
Okay.
Just because the Future State story that basically is a lead-in to this, I like the cyberpunky neon-y stuff, and that doesn't hit as much in black and white.
Yeah, I mean, and there's some great ideas here. He fights a giant, mecha Scarface at the start of this.
Which, again, this is why Williamson is one of my favorite minds at DC right now, because why in a future story, why can't Wesker, his ventriloquism power, not have a mech? So now you have Mecha Scarface, right? Like, that's a fun concept, and it is true to the ventriloquist, right? Again, it just is missing a little bit of that charm of the cyberpunky neon, even in the drab, where it just, I don't know, this book feels half-baked.
It's kind of
like it.
It's
I
funny
don't
because
know.
there's nothing wrong with black and white. Black and white is good if you're going
No.
for a moody noir, if you're going for
Mhm.
like a horror book. Sometimes really benefits from
Yeah.
black and white.
I mean,
But
Walking Dead
so,
was mostly black and white, right?
pretty much all of it, I think. I mean, they're redoing it
Yeah.
in color, but it was black and white
Right.
originally. But
Right.
it can be very moody. It can feel very shadowy. But the thing is, yeah, like Future State was full of neon. It was full of colors, and it was bright, and it was all
Yeah.
this vivid stuff. And it's kind of weird to have this book be in black and white. I thought they might do the thing where there's like splashes of red or something. But
Because Red Hood.
yeah, but
Yeah.
there isn't. So we find out that Red Hood, whoever he's working for, because remember we had that tease in the Future State book of the person in the alley, which we assume was
Right.
Bruce, but we still don't know
Judging
for sure.
No, judging from the last page, I'm willing to say that it's not.
Yeah. So he's actually the whole point of what he's doing is he's undercover, he's infiltrating the magistrate, and he actually, because of what goes down in this issue, which is after he takes down the big robot Scarface, he's fighting and sort of competing a little bit with Magistrate or Peacekeeper 3, and there's this giant sort of explosion and sort of rumbling, and they're running away from all the crumbling road, and then at the end of the scene, they sort of, and it's a well drawn scene. The art's actually pretty good in terms of the actual pacing and the action sequence. The big 2-page spread though at the end of the scene is that this explosion, whatever's done it, has created a giant bat symbol crater in the middle of the city, which is very un-Batman because this could have hurt a lot of people, right? So they think this is the new guy, and the person in the alley tells Jason that this is the new guy, the new next Batman, right? And obviously, I'm speculating, can we trust this person in the alley? Because it doesn't seem like he would do that from what we've seen of him.
No.
So, but yeah, he does actually get instated as Peacekeeper Red, which is an official, on a trial basis. This is kind of like his trial run to hunt down the next Batman as Peacekeeper Red. So it's bringing in the next Batman stuff, presumably as well, once we get the story going. It does remind us that Rose was with them and is left, so that's still a factor. So I like everything the story's doing in that sense. And the cliffhanger, of course, is that basically Nightwing and the rest of the Future State Batman family show up and they're like, okay, we need to talk, Jason, because you're being a bit of a bitch. That's the cliffhanger, effectively. So
they pull him up to beat him up, so like the person in the alley and whatnot, I'm wondering if it's the reason that he's convorting with them is the reason why Rose took off, because we know that at the end of that they were fine at the end of the Future State story, right? Like she was supposed to bring him in, but then they said, oh, it was a glitch, So I'm wondering if the person in the alley is the reason why she's not around. So it must be someone that's a bad influence. So whether it's Slade, maybe Roz, because I remember Future State teasing Roz a bunch, and we never got him.
I think it's also important to point out that the ending. I kind of glossed over how he gets there at the end because I think it's actually kind of a nice detail that Jason actually goes to the rooftops to find the Bat family because he wants to talk to them about the new Batman. Because I think, assuming that he did do this explosion, he wants to go and say, "Hey, this guy's in over his head. We need to talk about him and deal with him."
Right.
And Dick, basically, seemingly not knowing that Jason's undercover or whatever, and I think like Cass and Steph are behind him. I think Tim's there. Says this is a family meeting. Basically you're not welcome, and that's the final page specifically. So yeah, I mean the lack of color here. Like I have no problem with a black and white book in the right context, but it feels that this is the wrong choice for a black and white book.
Yep, 100%, and that's what left me a little disappointed because I liked what I read. I liked the story. I just wish like it would have pushed it over more if we got that the neon richness of it.
He's called Peacekeeper Red, and he's got like a slightly new outfit because it's partly Peacekeeper and partly Red Hood's outfit. And I don't really know what it looks like because there's no color.
That's right. That was gonna be my thing too. Is we named Peacekeeper Red, but y'all don't know that because this is in black and white. You have to imagine what the Red Hood looks like on the Peacekeeper outfit. Which I did like at the beginning, where Peacekeeper 3, what he yells at him about is, "You're a hunter, not a vigilante. You're doing vigilante stuff. So where do your allegiances lie?" He goes, "I live down the street. I didn't want a mech crushing my stuff." So it was all very still like that he's writing that line. That we know he was doing vigilante stuff because that's him, right? But just the way that
Yeah.
he has an antagonistic relationship with them, I like the way that they showed that. And,
The story is really good. Actually, I'm
mhm,
actually very much into this, especially since it is
yeah,
bringing in multiple parts of the Gotham
mhm,
world. Which it makes sense. It's called Future State Gotham, just because Red
right,
Hood's the main character. It is actually about the whole thing.
mhm,
It's just the baffling choice to make this a black and white book. I mean, this is a weird example because the coloring's been so good, so I wouldn't want
mhm,
them to take it away. But you could do like Detective right now in black and white, for example, and it could fit the tone of the story because we're dealing with murders and zombies and whatever, and it could be a really nice, creepy like take on it. Now, admittedly, the wonderful colors of that book mean that I wouldn't want them to take it away, but it's just the first thing I could think of that would probably fit conceptually
mhm,
with a black and white, style. Or I'm sure there's other ones that are out right now. I mean,
yeah,
Batman is generally lends himself to black and white, actually.
yeah, definitely. And so yeah, just that again, that's my main disappointment because even the art wasn't like not like in the story that we got in Future State where it would kind of the faces would go a little bit like I said Tintin kind of
Mm.
that cartoony style. There's a little bit of that, but not a lot. So and it helps when the majority of the when the main character wears a expressionless mask, that helps that out a lot. So a lot of my stuff that I found fault with earlier just isn't there, but like the action's all good. So there's not much to complain about except the lack of color, which is weird.
Yeah. Like I said, the art's actually very good, and the motion, the bike chase, because that was one of the things that was good about that Future State story was when
Yeah.
there was a vehicle chase of some kind, and here it's the
Mhm.
same thing. Like them, riding and racing and trying to get away from the explosions is actually a really
Yeah.
good sequence with that great payoff 2-page spread. Um, so yeah, it's a weird thing. I feel like we're gonna get to ratings here. What you giving it, but
Yeah. I'm giving it a 7.5. Would have been an 8 if it Red Hood was red.
it's a very similar sentiment. I'm actually go a bit higher. I'm going to give it an 8, but it probably would have been 8.5 if this had color. I mean, hell, let's say the coloring was great and it had that great neon look to it. It may have been a 9 even if the coloring really made it pop. But
Yeah.
but I'm still gonna give it an 8 because I think the story's really compelling. I'm into like finding out about what's going on in this world and everything that's going on, and the idea we have we have the untrustworthy Bat family member as the undercover one is just a good idea.
He's getting a little bit close, right?
Yeah.
I just want to point out that Pete rated a Red Hood book higher than me, so that's all.
There's a surprisingly decent couple of Red Hood stories going on right now. It's
I
not my
know.
fault. It's not my fault.
I know.
I mean,
Way to go, DC.
Speaking of which, Batman Urban Legends issue 3, various stories in here. They had to drop the 100-page book the same week as the anthology Gotham book, didn't they?
I have a feeling though that two of these we can breeze through, but the other main two not so much. So
For sure. It's just the unfortunate timing and their scheduling. Oh, actually, I didn't even mention the backup. There's a backup in Future State Gotham which was not that good.
I kind of skimmed it because there's not a lot of words and I have no idea what the story actually was. So yeah.
I will say I did think the art was good at it. To be fair, the art was good, which is still black and white. But right. I thought the story didn't do much for me, so I'll just leave it there. We can move on. But it existed. Cool. All right, so Future State Gotham issue 1, Joshua Williamson. Sorry, no, I just did that. Batman Urban Legends issue 3. Various creators. We'll get to them in a minute. So, yeah, starting off with the Red Hood story. Now, I'll start off with the slight negative, which I do think this is the weakest chapter of this Red Hood story so far.
Right, but it's a middle chapter, so we can kind of that's where the dip kind of is. Man, Zdarsky writes a Bruce that I really don't like, so I love it.
You didn't like Bruce giving the kid a lollipop? No, that wasn't.
I did like that, but just like him turning around and yelling at Jason, and then just dropping the kid off with Leslie. I don't know. It's just this Bruce is just kind of we're getting Bruce from Jason's perspective, right?
Oh, so for sure. Yeah.
There's a lot of we're seeing his faults more, which I can see. But yeah, him pulling out the lollipop, I thought was a fun touch. And when he just looks at him, is like, really? He's like, yeah, effective for distracting children in emergency scenes.
Yes.
It just, yeah.
I mean, I like some of these plot beats though. I like he goes to Leslie, says, "Can you look after this kid for a few days, and we'll find something permanent for him afterwards." But I did like where she says, "Okay, I'm fine with this as long as you don't plan on making him a new Robin." And he says, "No, this is about helping a Robin." And he looks at Jason as he says, "I like that little moment. I thought that was a nice little touch."
That was real good.
So. What's funny is that the Damien story in the anthology book kind of made. I was thinking of that a little bit as I read this because Jason essentially gets frustrated that Bruce wants to spend the day doing research and detective work because the night times for going out as Batman and doing the physical stuff. But we see like a flashback of now he is Robin in the flashback. We've advanced further, and it's him getting impatient when Batman's studying a crime scene and going off to fight a thug who he thinks might have witnessed something. And the ultimate...
It's very Damien.
Yeah.
Like him going, he's like, well, no, he's a criminal. We're going to beat the piss out of him, right? And I was like, no, that's not what we do. He's like, well, I'm confused. Like, because I just saw you beat up some dude.
Yeah. Jason just assumes that this guy can't be trusted because he has a past. And Batman's like, no, he's reformed. He's actually been on the straight and narrow for a while. People can change. That's kind of part of the point of justice. And Jason says, no, he's a thief and people don't change. And Batman obviously hits him back with, well, didn't I meet you stealing my cars or my tires? Like,
yeah.
People can maybe change.
And that's a really nice sentiment. And I like that art in the backup. It feels very throwback. So that's a nice...
Well, I mean, the whole issue kind of challenges it in a way because Jason is kind of still doing the same thing because he does get impatient. He does go off and try to do his own thing.
Yeah. Which leads him to getting into trouble. I like they go to the lady that helped co-develop the fear toxin, but originally it was meant for Crane's psychiatric stuff, and it wasn't nearly as potent, but she feels a little bit responsible for how he's weaponized it.
It's important to note that she didn't help a supervillain make a fear toxin that was going to be used as a weapon. She was helping make something that was going to be used to treat patients that had a beneficial outcome. But she still feels guilty as shit every time there's an attack. Yeah.
Right, and so I did like that. That was another little piece that adds complexity to this sheer drops, and that so that leads to them splitting, and Bruce goes to do his thing, and Jason goes to do his, which is intimidating people, hanging them off the side of a building. So again, that brings that back to like what you were saying with the story of him as younger Robin.
He has the location. He asked the Oracle to help. Like, what sort of like how many guards is there? Like, what sort of resistance am I looking at? And Oracle says, look, the last time I helped you with information, someone died. You killed someone. I don't really feel comfortable helping you. And he kind of convinces her by saying, no, I'm trying to make up for that. I'm trying to do the right thing, please. And she does give in. But the cliffhanger of the story is that it is a trap. And because I thought he was smelling something. So I didn't necessarily get what it was at first, but then he freezes at the bottom of the page, and the cliffhanger is that the person waiting for him at this location is none other than Mr. Freeze. We get a full page spread of him and all his glory. So curious to see where this goes next time. So the flashbacks are all right, but they definitely feel like I don't know if we need as many of them as we're getting.
Yeah, no, but I do like the art style, so I'm okay with seeing them.
Sure.
I like how much brighter it is than the main story. Like even the coloring's a little bit different. So
yeah, and this does have three artists on it, so there's actually an extra artist to, I assume, help with the main story.
Probably.
So, and the main art is it's very. I mean, it's Barrows. It's serviceable. It's good places. A bit shaky in others. I don't know if it's quite up to the consistency that he had in Detective Comics when he was doing that, but not bad by any means. What were you rating this Red Hood chapter?
I'm gonna give this one a 7.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've gotten a lot of sevens this week.
Yeah.
Which makes a difference because last week, I only had like 4 or 5 books, but I was like handing out 8s, 9s, and
It was a good
all
week.
sorts. It was a good week.
Yeah.
So then we move on to our next story here, and we get a Shiva story, which is a little interesting actually. So she basically comes to confront Batman. Wants to have a chat, very un-Shiva like, but wants to talk about Cass, and it becomes just about taking my daughter away from me.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of these things where it kind of like rubs me the wrong way a little bit conceptually, just because I feel like sometimes they return to the same idea a little bit too often.
Yep.
And I feel like we've had Shiva confront Batman over this kind of thing before.
It's regressive.
Yeah.
It's where we got to a point in Outsiders where she's like, look, clearly I'm not meant for this mother thing. She's still my daughter. I'm going to keep an eye on her, but you're better at this than I would ever be. And I like that's where they left it. So her coming back and almost like basically death by Batman.
I mean, honestly, like I would probably the Jason Todd story, I'd probably be like less into that if I had forced myself to read a lot of Red Hood stuff, because there is a lot of Red Hood stories, from what I understand, that devolve into Batman says you can't kill in my city and Jason's working around it. Like, so but because I've not read all that stuff, and because Zdarsky's a good writer, like I'm enjoying it in the here and now. But with this, I have seen them interact over Cass before, fairly recently as well, and Batman the Outsiders.
And they even reference it here. But so the fact that their whole conversation ends up with her, attacking him with one of his own kitchen knives.
It does have a twist on it though. There's a twist at the end of it, which is she actually wants to die, and like essentially once he like disarms her and holds her knife, she throws herself onto the knife and says she's tired and it's time to go. Right. But she wakes up and in a bed. He's patched her up, of course, and he takes her to the fair, the city fair, and basically just shows that Cass is smiling and having fun with Duke and Steph playing mini golf, and it's just kind of a sweet ending. So I did kind of like the ending, but most of the story just kind of felt like, okay, we've had. And I don't know if it does anything with the story to really justify why she was ready to commit suicide.
I don't understand. I get it. Like,
it's very extreme.
It is, and the fact like she was missing her sister, like there. So I get it. Like she's longing to be a mother or to have family, but throwing yourself on the end of a knife that Batman's holding isn't gonna help that.
This scene, this story feels like it should be at the end of a 6-issue comic miniseries that builds up to why she feels this way. It feels like too big of an idea for the character to just sort of like, oh, she was willing to like throw herself and get herself killed by Batman, but then like very quickly is shown something that makes her smile, and that's the end of it. It feels just too big dramatically to just squeeze into a short story like this. So especially since this is in continuity. This is the in continuity Shiva, which is the
because she goes to his new place, right?
Yeah.
Like he talks about the neighbors.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, I mean, so again, and I've really come to like Shiva over the last couple months. Like it's a great character. I just love the idea of this badass martial artist assassin lady. So yeah, and it seemed very out of character for her. Like, and I like shows the disappointed mom thing, like you said, like she's missed out on her daughter's life because of the life she's chosen. Like that's a plot point that's very relatable for a lot of people, but. Yeah, here it seemed to be missing a huge chunk. Yeah, that's disappointing.
Yeah, very weird, very weird. Some ideas towards the end, but it felt like you can't just throw that in willy-nilly like that.
I did love seeing her with Steph and Duke, because that's a nice trinity.
Sure. Yeah.
I like seeing Cass have her support group.
Yeah.
There, and they can all rely on each other.
I'm saying Steph because there's no one else it could be. It's just a blonde-haired girl from the back. I mean, I assume it's Steph.
Well, it's not Black Canary, know. It's got to be Stephanie Brown.
Yeah.
So, could be Wonder Girl, but I don't know if they've ever.
I don't think so. Well, no, I mean,
outside of John's Teen Titans.
Yeah, it just makes more sense that it's Steph. Based on our time together in the Bat family, it just makes more sense.
Yep.
So then we go to the next part of the Outsider story. which we essentially, it's a bit funny because it kind of like results in Katana saying, no, her and Jefferson are just friends. She does love him, but not in that way.
Platonically,
to her in-law. Meanwhile, in the present day stuff, Metamorpho and Black Lightning are fighting a bunch of the goons as Katana is having this conversation with the in-law.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. You know, it keeps cutting back to this flashback where Katana and Jefferson are sparring and they're training, and there is kind of like a sort of like almost romantic moment where they kind of land in each other. But it never actually, because I guess it's kind of like subverting your expectation because you're expecting them to have a kiss or something because of like the story that's going on in the present day. But no, it actually kind of backs up what she's saying, is that no, there is nothing romantic necessarily. Even if it may still become that at some point, it's not there right now.
I do not want them to get rid of the tension. Yeah. I do like that, and that's something I feel came from Hill during his Outsiders run and Detective run. And I'd like that tension there, the will they, won't they type thing, but the fact that she's literally carrying her husband with her in the sword, you know, like,
makes it a bit weird. But I think ultimately we do have to tell a story at some point where Katana is allowed to move on. You know, is allowed to have a relationship. Exactly. So,
I just don't think it needs to happen in an anthology book, right? Like,
well,
you know, like,
it's interesting.
Let that story happen in Outsiders.
It does say at the end of this, because this is the last part of the story in this anthology. It says continued in the fall of 2021. Now, it could just be an arc in this book. It could be in Gotham Urban Legends or Batman Urban Legends. Yeah. I'm confusing the two anthology style books. It could just be like this will get one of the bigger slots in this book where it'll get the 20-page slot for 6 months starting sometime later this year. Or it could be there is a miniseries planned or an event planned where some of these characters are going to be prominently featured. It's cool that there's plans for things though. It's nice that there's multiple things this week between this and the big anthology book that said to be continued later this year, but we don't know where, we don't know how, we don't know what book it's going to be in. It's kind of nice.
It reminds me of when Johns used to end his big stories with like a trailer page. Like I just remember seeing The Blackest Night being teased like 2 years in advance, and just how cool that was. Like comics don't usually do that, so to see that here in Festival of Heroes, and then and in this one, and just the bringing Duke in as an outsider. And then someone different. Like, who's this somebody different? You know, and he has a smile.
That's right, I didn't mention that, the tease of the fifth member. Like, it says, okay, we've got the three of us, Duke's going to be joining, and then as a fifth one, someone a bit different, which to me says someone who's not been an outsider before. Yeah,
exactly. So, who could it be? And that's very...
Which, it's actually... want to know. And it is kind of neat that it's like, okay, Duke represents the new generation of outsiders because he was in the past book. Metamorpho represents the original. I mean, so does Black Lightning and stuff. But,
and Katana.
Yeah. You know? But the idea that they brought Metamorpho back. So if you think of Black Lightning and Katana as the through line that are keeping everything running, Metamorpho represents the old, Duke represents the new, and then there's going to be an actual new person who's never been in the Outsiders. So that's cool. My money's on Kite Man.
No, I'm disappointed you didn't say Cold Snap.
Well, see, Kite Man I can see having the redemption and becoming a hero.
That's true.
Cold Snap's a villain. He's a villain through and through.
True.
There's no,
hell yeah.
No changing that. 7 out of 10 I think for me on this. It's I like what it does. I feel like
a little bit more.
I feel like this 3-parter could have just been one longer story in one issue rather than being split into 3, but that's kind of
I remember the end of the first one. It was Black Lightning trapped in Metamorpho as a prison. I want more of that. Like, how did he get out? Like, how did Metamorpho get himself into that scramble? Yeah,
I'm not even saying separate it into a one shot. I'm just saying instead of having the 2 short stories in the middle for one issue, just have this be a 20 something page story in one go. Yeah, but that's whatever. So. And the final story, of course, is the Grifter story, where he's infiltrating Wayne Enterprises, the key card. He's actually, despite the disgust when they first met, the security lady who's his boss, technically, he has slept with her.
Shacks up with her.
But she discards him. She's the one who's like, hey, I called you a cab. Get dressed. You're going.
Yeah, beat it, nerd.
But he did clone her computer so that him and whoever he's talking to can get into Wayne's systems.
Yeah. here's my take on this story, just real quick. I am so glad that Rosenberg loves Grifter. I just wish I like Grifter as much as Rosenberg does. This, I get it. This is business intrigue, and I'm just like, this story would not finish. Like, it didn't have that fun, like when Lucius got kidnapped. That was in this book, right? Is that the last issue?
Yeah, that was like the end of issue 1, start issue 2, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
This one's going on. I don't know who he's talking to on the other end still. And there's actually nothing wrong with this book. I just can't find myself caring about Cole Cash.
The big thing is you got a scene with Bruce talking to him and sort of having this kind of like tense discussion over him having a burger.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, no continuity here, because the last time I saw Bruce Wayne eat a burger, he used cutlery and there was jokes about it. So now he's eating a burger properly. Is that them showing me that he's grown, that he's gotten better?
Yeah. Well, Bruce Wayne in the cave uses cutlery, but maybe Bruce Wayne at Wayne Enterprise picks it up because it's trying to mimic normal human behavior.
It was at the Bat Burger fast food place. This all happened.
Ah, shoot.
So yeah, my tablet died in the middle of that when we were talking there, so I was like scrambling for the power cable.
Gotcha.
So I do like the cliffhanger. I like that final page. The art, I think, is really good. That final page, the spread where he's sneaking about where he's not supposed to, and Bruce and Lucius come up in the elevator. So he's like dangling out of the building, kind of like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. He's just kind of dangling up in the skyscraper. I like that final image. So I'm into. I'm still into what it's doing. It kind of suffers from almost what the Red Hood one suffers from. It's that middle chapter where.
This one kept going. At least with the Red Hood one, I was enjoying it enough that this one though, like I was reading it before bed and I looked. I was like, man, I still got like 6 pages left. So I left it for the next day. Yeah,
that's it though. This one does start with a flashback that reveals that someone has hired him to specifically do this. Like, their first meeting of like, okay, we want you to invade Wayne Enterprises, blah blah blah. So
and again, I'm happy that Matt Rosenberg is getting to write what seems like there's a lot of passion for the character here. It just doesn't translate to me, Like I'm sure, like if I wrote a Guy Gardner story and you read it, you'd be like, okay, I don't care that much about Guy Gardner, but I'm happy you're happy. That's how I feel with the Grifter story.
Yeah, there is the Grifter Batman scene where in the middle of the 2-page layout, Batman takes apart his guns and his hands, and he's like,
that's again,
that was a neat touch.
There's a lot of fun stuff in there. Yeah, that's one of the fun. That's why I'll retract what I said about the fun stuff. Felt like it was missing. That was a good one, and these are useless now.
Yeah. So
yeah.
All right, what are you rating it?
I'll give this a 7.
Yeah, last 7s. So I'm in the 7s, but I think I'm probably going to agree with the 7 on this story. So there you go. That's Batman Urban Legends. All 4 stories. So cool. Rorschach issue 8. Tom King, Jorge Fornes. So this is the real part of the show. The rest of it's all been a prelude to the Rorschach conversation.
And I'm watching the clock eye, and I'm so hungry. And then we still have Rorschach, which I have a lot to say about. So, hooey.
Yeah, I'm also pretty hungry. I've got a new game to play as well, which I'm looking forward to. Yeah. So,
well, I'll try to make this brief as much as I can.
It's not happening. I'll tell you right now, it's not happening. Yeah. So the structure of this issue is that our investigator is interviewing 3 people, and each page is essentially split into a third. Now, it's not 3 panels. Like each page has different layouts of the panels within each third, but they also have a color tint after the first page as well, where the top one, which is red, which is the lawyer, and then the second one, the middle one is green, which is a psychiatrist, and then the bottom one is blue, which is kind of the handyman kind of helper guy, right?
Yeah, and I like that each of their not costumes, but they're wearing gives that color, right? So in the beginning, the lawyer's wearing like a red shirt, the psychiatrist wearing like a green vest, and the handyman's wearing a Dodgers hat, like a blue. Yeah. So that colors the story as they're telling it. Yeah. Yeah. Whenever it's a great storytelling device. Whenever it comes back to the interrogation room, we don't have the tints, right? It's just there and plain. Right. What I liked about the layouts in this though a lot is there's a couple of really good ones. I think it's the first time we go back to the interrogation after some of the stories have been told, is we get like I'm trying to find it so I can
say it properly. Well, in fact, no, it's actually the third time, I think, or the second time.
You know about when he gets across the room?
No, it is the second time. But it was more so much the second page, but it does happen in the first page as well to an extent. Is that the way it's split up is you have like the inspector get up and he walks over to the other person, and it's worth mentioning they have bruises, they've got some blood coming out their mouth.
Yeah.
There's been some mean interrogation tactics.
Yeah.
Off panel.
Good cop, bad cop, but there's no good cop.
Yeah. But I really liked in the following page when he does punch them, like when he walks back and sits down, like the way it just carries the pacing throughout the page as you're reading it.
Fornes is a master at this because we've said this. He does something like this in every issue so far.
There's nothing more impressive to me in comic book art and sequential comic book art than making me feel a pace where I can actually feel the beats of the scene play out as if I was watching a movie, where I can feel each step and I can feel the camera move, as it were. Like it's so impressive, and it does it so magically through these layouts. So really good stuff. But yeah, so this is all them being interviewed based on an event that happened before, of course, the assassination attempt, which is the kid in Meyerson asked them all to come out to this farmhouse in the middle of nowhere in the desert. And it's funny because the handyman is the last one on the page, but he was first to actually be there.
He's the first one there.
Because he's the one who helps build the thing that we're going to get to in a minute.
Right.
And we have them tell a story. And I was looking at the layouts, because obviously the way this works is that they're all in like little panels.
Thirds.
In each third, but they're all in little panels, and then the narration telling the story is in just the white background, right, where there's no panel and the empty space.
Yeah.
So they kind of make shapes, and I was kind of looking at them and going, do these like form letters or symbols that I can kind of say or something? Is there some sort of hidden code going on?
It's like they're puzzle pieces.
I feel
it's like Tetris, right? They're all kind of Tetris shapes, and then if you push them together, you get the full. Right? Or there's pieces missing on certain ones.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
So good.
So, yeah, and they're all out there for obviously different reasons, right? So the handyman's there to help build something, which we'll get to in a bit. Psychiatrist there, because this psychiatrist has been seeing Meyerson for a long time, mentions that his father, who was a psychiatrist, was his doctor before him. So that reminded me of the new Rorschach from Doomsday Clock. Yes.
Right? Because that was what's Rorschach's real name?
Kovacs.
Kovacs. It's Walter Kovacs's therapist, right? So that felt like a familiar piece there, and that again can't be by accident. So, once we get to the end, we'll talk about theories. But I have a theory about that.
Yeah, and the lawyer's there to talk about the distribution of Meyerson's money, to update his will. In the event of his death, and it's all basically going back to the kid's hometown and like making sure that's all like maintained.
Yeah, specifically the graveyard, the miner's graveyard.
Yeah, because remember there was so much backstory about that mine and like what happened there. So that's kind of why they're all there, right? And it's them telling their stories about going out there, and they were all paid to go there by Frank Miller, right? That was like that's why he's tracked all these people down.
It's still so crazy to read a book where Frank Miller's the character.
It's so funny.
And he's basically Frank Miller.
What's so funny is that early on he's referenced by one of the characters. They say Mr. Miller sent me this check, and I went, Mr. Miller, who's Mr. Miller? And then it dawned on me who they were talking about. I was like, oh yeah, Frank Miller, because he was in the book of last issue. So they're telling us, and it's very methodical in the way. The way it even inserts some of the panels of the investigator, like asking the questions without the tint into the thirds, is also really good. Like there's just this pacing.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too. Is that as it goes, right? It's like he's piecing their stories together, and the more that we hear their stories, the more it comes together. So there's less of that space in between the panels, and a lot less of the white there. So by the time you get to the page where they're all on the stand looking at the stage, it's a full picture.
Yeah, they're full panels, yeah.
Yeah, and you
more specifically, they're full thirds, I guess, to really describe it.
Full thirds, right. And then as he's trying to piece, he goes, okay, that's where the stories line up, where they're all the same. And then as it gets back and you start to not itemize. You start to isolate each of the other characters. That's where that starts to get the white spaces again, right? Where he's trying to fill in the story until you get to the last couple pages and there's no more blank, right? We're back in the present where he has the information he needs. You know,
Yeah, and obviously a lot of this is like he's asking them, what were Myerson and the kid like, and they talk about them. Oh, they didn't seem like they were going to try and assassinate someone. Yeah, it's weird that he's wearing this Rorschach mask, but
yeah.
the kid was sweet. He was always a bit weird, but nothing dangerous, and it all feels like they had this experience which should have been slightly concerning to them, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't seem to be, which is why I think when you get to the end and they have their creepy moment, which it kind of hits, 'cause it's kind of a surprise and a twist.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, your mic's going, Matt, in the traditional way.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have to specify. Now we have to specify because there's two weird things that I'll do. But yeah, so they build this tower and a stage, right? Or maybe the tower's already there. It may just be a tower that's naturally there, but they build a stage like so they can practice the aim, the idea that they're mimicking the distance of the arena, of which this governor presidential debate is going to take place,
Mm-hmm.
and these three they're taken up there and they're told to try and hit the target, which we don't see till later is actually a little Watchman button, the smiley face.
Yeah,
right?
the comedian.
So it's a tiny target. Like this is like headshot practice almost because it's such a small target.
And they all talk about how, with that gun you could do it, but not at that distance. Like it was almost an impossible task, but the kid never missed.
Yeah, and there's more of that political thing where this is anti-left wing because they talk about how Redford took away the guns that could do this. You weren't allowed to buy them anymore. Right. But these are like old-fashioned rifles. But the kid, who's been working with guns since she was, literally a kid, is so good at this. And like you say, there's that gorgeous 2-page layout where it's the 3 full thirds. But there are those little like sort of indents where it does a square around where they are in the tower and where the target is, which is a really nice thing. And they're telling the story, and this is the thing, because they're kind of intersecting, because they're all on each page, you get this sort of overall picture of them just not being able to do it. And I like the psychiatrist specifically talking about how if you weren't careful, the shell that comes out of the gun when you fire, it's really hot and it could go into your shirt. Like you might get unlucky enough that it might fall into your shirt and it'd be really hot. So I like that detail. But they're trying to hit this target, which is a smiley face, just a pile of sandbags. So you've got this smiley button on it, and then she takes the gun and taking almost no time to aim, gets a direct hit. And in each of the panels, you see for some reason, like I don't know if it was maybe implying it was paint pellets, or if it was just more of a metaphor, but you get the classic blood sliding down the Watchman smiley button. Going throughout the page until it's actually dripped down like the classic image. And it's a really, really great page. The way it's sort of building up, it really feels like this is all practice for something. And they're talking about how they seem like really happy and pleasant and content living in this middle of nowhere, and they all say they leave without incident, and they're all there for a few days each, and they all come home, they pack, get in the car, and fly home. And it's at that point where we actually get a flashback to sort of what happened at the end of the last issue, which is the arrest of Frank Miller, where he does the classic thing where they take off his Rorschach mask and he's yelling, give me it back, give me back my face. Right. Classic stuff. And that's obviously, and it's investigating what he's done, so it's led to these 3 characters.
Right, so that they gave him a name because he's paid them the money. Yeah. Right, that he was acting for Myerson. There was a piece here that we'd speculated, or you knew that this was in the TV show continuity. There's a talk about when they're talking about the mask. He goes, "Oh, the cops in the Midwest wear masks all the time." Yeah. So I thought that was a little piece of this too.
Yeah, it's all the Redford talk that I think put it in the TV. Continuity. Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting piece too, because it's when they start talking about the mask with Miller and all of this is that our investigator gets mad because he says doing these visits in person is ridiculous. Accepting that the mask is ridiculous. You went there for a reason. You're telling this part of the story now for a reason. Why do your stories match so well? Yeah, that's what he says. The stories match so well, and we saw it really match at the. And
Yep.
it did that thing where even when they were all lying in the same guest bedroom, it showed you them in the exact same frame. I mean, the panel layout was different because it was different blocks we were seeing.
Right.
But they were all lying. The bed was at the same angle. It was almost like Fornes probably even didn't draw it 3 times. Like he drew obviously he drew the different people, but I can imagine that Fornes, to make sure it was identical, just copied his art of the bed in the room.
Yeah, they're little. Yeah, it's like you're zooming in on the room, but you can tell it's the same room.
Yeah.
You know.
But it's the exact same framing and layout, just with different panels, sort of like windows looking into it. And yeah, and then you get to the actual like practicing the shots, and it is exactly the same moment it's happening, and it's like everything's lining up. And part of me's thinking, is he going off the off the deep end here? Is he maybe assuming too much because the stories do match up too perfectly? And then when he gets really mad, he punches them all again. He yells at them. What's going on? This was very specific. The stories match so well. Why the emphasis on how happy they were? Why the stage, the range, on her being good shot, all of it matching. You're leading the conversation. It's like it's like something's trying to get through to him. There's a message for him specifically, and he says, "What the hell is going on?" And then you get this page where it's just the 3/3, them in the dark in the interrogation room, and they all have this creepy smile. And it sort of splits it up, and they all say the same thing, but you get it like told like sequentially through the 3 of them, where it says, "Oh, it's you. I've been waiting for you," and it's like they're members of a cult. It's like they've been brainwashed by Meyerson and the kid, and like who knows if anything they've told them actually happened? Did any of it happen as they said it? Is it mostly right up until the shooting range, but then after that there is more to like what convinced them or what converted them? Or whatever, because I think you brought up the original psychiatrist with Rorschach. Part of that, especially as we, and in that issue in the original book, where how much it got to him, how much he was starting to question his own sanity. He never converted to Rorschach's way of thinking. But it's not a giant leap to think that Rorschach or a Rorschach could pull that off.
Left an imprint. Left an imprint on him, and so it's almost as if the spirit of Rorschach isn't actually the spirit, it's this mentality. And Meyerson and Kid were able to instill that mentality into each 3 of these people, right? Through whatever acts that it were. And that's what, bringing up the psychiatrist, that's part of the story. That's giving the investigator the clue, because the spirit of Rorschach wants him to figure this out. And if you look, he's using Rorschach's methods. We saw this time and again in the original story of Rorschach, investigating, which is just punching guys until they tell him what he wants to hear.
This is going to sound insane because, obviously they have the bodies and stuff, but part of me is expecting like a reveal, like it wasn't really Meyerson or the kid who was there on the day itself. Like, I'm starting to get that feeling that they've got some master plan where they want him to get this close and figure certain things out. I mean, is the whole point of this book is to eventually convert our main character into their way of thinking? Is this a whole thing about brainwashing him or about convincing him of like which side he should be on? Yeah.
And that, because he's being paid by Turley, right? Yeah. We know he doesn't like Turley from other interactions. And then the thing that he mentions after, he says it's like a cult. If I ask the right question, I get the right answer. The squids are here. And don't forget what the kid's dad, what his whole belief was, is that the squids were mind controlling everybody. So if the squids, who are the squids? Are the squids, have they taken up basically being the opposition? That it's Meyerson and the kid? That's their mission now? Is that we're going to infect people with what we feel is, how they need to be? Is this the idea of a virus, not an actual virus, but like thought as a virus? That once it's
basically taking the idea of propaganda and manipulation, but turn it up because it's a fictional story. You turn it up to 11, and you're literally changing the minds into being brainwashed by it. Which, to a point, one could argue that some of this does happen anyway. That people do get brainwashed by media and things like that. But this is taking it to another step.
Well, it's turning it up.
Yeah.
Right, it's turning it up, and that's why I feel like this is a masterpiece, because we've talked and talked and talked. Tom King was in the CIA. He knows the different methods that they use to change the narratives on things, you know? And so I feel like this is him kind of tipping the hand of, this is how this stuff happens. Like, it seems innocuous, right? Lawyer comes to the house, this is what they're doing. Something happened there that led to them, you know, sharing the beliefs of Meyerson and the kid. You know, and we've even seen what the kid has done by, you know, getting the circus strongman to believe that he's reincarnated spirit of Rorschach.
Yeah, no, that already happened. And I think it's important here that these are three very different people. They're all very different backgrounds, very different professions, very different attitudes, and all of them are seemingly converted in a very creepy way by the end of this issue.
Right, and these are supposed to be our heroes. I mean, I shouldn't say heroes. These are, you know, from what we've seen, they were trying to commit an assassination of a political candidate. But we've seen that political candidate isn't a good person, you know? So, for lack of a better term, these are our, you know, heroes, and yet their methods seem to be no different than Turley's, right? The way that Turley talks about, you know, or in that second or third issue, you know, the whole idea of a real American and whatnot. Just the idea that this from now the Rorschach perspective, you know, what does that mean? What is that other?
I mean, because you go back to the squids, the squid's just a metaphor for the opposition, or is it actually a complete, you know, alien? Because this is the thing, because this world believes that an actual squid did kill all these people, it also makes complete sense they would actually believe the squids are coming, and the squids are here and are manipulating people.
But we know where that came from Veet, and that was a, you know, genetically engineered thing.
Yeah, but these characters don't know that, which is you know.
So what does that mean with for their purpose? Because we know it's all a sham built by Veet, but how belief was able to go in and change these people, you know, for some for the better, maybe some for the worse. And don't forget, she never missed, but she somehow missed Turley.
Well, that's the thing. That's what tells me something's not right about the assassination attempt, because she hit every single time, and it's like the kid in Meyerson wanted this inspector to know that she never misses. So why did she miss on that day?
Right.
And okay, and maybe even I'll accept that. Okay, maybe there won't be some twist where they're actually not dead, and it was them that day. They did die, but the whole point of like him getting to this realization that she intentionally missed meant that the real,
so they could uncover whatever.
Well, not necessarily uncover that. What I'm trying to say is they intentionally missed because the plan wasn't to assassinate this guy. The plan was to turn our main character into something, or have him get.
That's what I mean. The uncovering as he goes along this path, that they manipulated the events that lead to him getting here.
Well, what I'm really saying is that it may not be him uncovering something. It may be him being manipulated into something. It may be him being put into a position where he'll do something that they want him to do, whatever that goal is. And maybe there'll be a bit of a swerve that we can't predict as to what their real intentions actually are. I mean, if it turns out that the assassination of Turley is nothing but a part of a plan to actually initiate something else, then what actually is the ultimate goal?
Which that is totally Veet, though, right? Like, that was his plan.
Yeah,
his plan was all these steps. Like, what do you mean? I'm gonna stop it. It happened 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, I'd go even further and just say it's very Watchmen. Like, you know, it's just the whole idea of Watchmen is that this character, we're trying to put all these pieces together the whole time, much like our main character, but the idea being that he's being played, or whatever's really going on, we're not even touching at yet, because it's the whole point is that this is a misdirection, that this is putting him in a place where he'll do the right thing for, you know, in the eyes of the person who set it all up.
Right. And we're 2/3. This is 12 issues, right?
Yeah, 12 issues.
So we're 2/3 of the way through with this now. You know, so this would be where the third act starts. And yeah, man, just this is the type of stuff that I love from King. This is my favorite book of his thus far, through 8. You know, and I loved Mr. Miracle. I mean, it took me a minute to get into it.
Mhm.
You know, that first issue kind of broke my brain. I didn't know if I liked it. I'm loving Strange Adventures, but like this, what this is doing, just with the way that it's telling stories, and what the story that's being told, and how that relates to the real world, and just the whole idea of the meta, everything here too, because we don't know actually what happened on that farm in that farmhouse. We know what they're telling us and how it lines up perfectly, but are we, you know, they want him to believe that she never missed, but we don't know that, you know. So
No,
it's
I mean,
just like
I'm
yeah.
inclined to believe that it's true, though. I'm inclined to believe that part is true.
Right, because of what we've heard from her so far,
Yeah.
that she never misses, right? But still, it's this whole point of their stories line up perfectly. They wanted me to get to a point.
I
They
guess
were leading me along, you know.
But I think the reason why I believe it, and I believe most of what they actually say, there's more they're not saying, but I believe most of what they're saying in the story purely because it's like, no, this is going to work because it's still the truth. Even though there's extra parts to it and there's manipulation and they're brainwashed, I think the point is that this part's still going to work because she really doesn't miss. They really saw her not miss, and you know, regardless of anything else, that detail is true because that's what affects everything. So I'm inclined to think my gut instinct says that's real.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know who to trust, and I think that's the point too. Yes. I'm just as lost as our main character in this, and I'm not frustrated because I'm enjoying everything. Also, I want to go back and read this in the way where you just read all the red story, and then all the green, then all the blue.
Sure.
Because I read this like a regular comic, page by page, and you know, again, it reminds me of the Fearful Symmetry issue of Watchmen that could be, you know, that you can read backwards and forwards.
Yeah, I think it's intended to be read traditionally first, at least. Yep. But yeah, there's probably some merit in doing it that way.
So, yeah, man, King and Fornes, this is one of my favorite teams. I remember when this book was announced, I was not stoked because I was Rorschached out. You know, just certain types of people belong to that character.
And I think at the time you immediately assumed, oh, they're somehow bringing Rorschach back, and that's not what this is. This is not
at all. And I was a little on the outs with King on top of it too, right? Like
because it's right around Heroes in Crisis. Yeah,
it was still fresh, and you know, but no, man, this is this type of stuff I feel that he's built for.
Yeah,
these standalone stories.
Because I mean, I wasn't sure about anything, but I think I remember saying, well, we don't know it's actually Rorschach. It could be someone else wearing the mask. It could be a number of things. Because especially since, you know, Watchmen, it was like, oh, how's Rorschach back? Oh, it's someone else wearing the mask.
Right.
So it was like, okay, so let's see how this works. And yeah, it's just been one of the best things that's been coming out from DC in the last, you know,
easily,
8 months, I guess now, because it's issue 8. So, what are you rating Rorschach? And we did talk about the art. We talked about the pals, talked about the layouts, all that stuff.
This is a 9.5.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just gonna go to flat 9. We're gonna go to flat 9.
Yeah.
Other issues have wowed me that little bit more, so I'll just go to flat 9. But
yeah, fair.
I don't know. I think the lowest rating I've given this book is maybe an 8.5, and that was like the low point of the whole thing. Was an 8.5.
This book has been killing. I look forward to it. It's the last thing I read every time it's up, just because I want to save it. You know, because. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's very, very good.
It's usually the last. I actually had Urban Legends last after Rorschach. And it was basically just because in case I just couldn't read one more, I thought, I'm not going to not read Rorschach. So if something gets dropped from the end of Urban Legends, I won't feel as bad. Yeah. But I did get it done, obviously.
That's why I was hustling all week to get through Festival of Heroes and Urban Legends, so I would have enough time to read and process Rorschach. Yeah. You know, and we're doing this on a short week already. You know. So it's been a lot of comic reading.
Yes, big week. So there you go. That takes us out of the part of the show where we pick our favorite stuff of the week. We do our panel/moment, favorite art, favorite cover, and of course our top 5 books. And we actually have more than 5 books. We both had 7, so this should be an interesting selection process. Because Because I would actually say 8 total books sounds like a normal amount. It just so happens that 2 of them are really, really big.
They're massive.
Yeah. So kicking off then with panel / moment of the week. And what from Rorschach is it, man?
Yeah, there's so many though. It's hard to pick just one. But I'm gonna go with the towards the back where it's got all 3 of the guys, and they just give the creepy cult answer. Especially the bottom panel, the guy in the handyman in the Dodger hat has this bloody nose that's running down into his face, and it's just, yeah. So I've been waiting for you, and just with the way that the speech bubbles are, they're not perfectly round, they're very sketchy.
Yeah,
it's so creepy. Yeah, it really made that book work.
Yeah, I think I need to go with because I like a lot of the little moments. I like when they make their observations about the kid and her being like a nice young girl and like how she's really friendly with them. Does that thing where it does like a small close up panel, and she's like, just like making breakfast or something. The idea that there was an atmosphere and stuff like that. But ultimately, I have to go with when she hits the button, like those 3 panels and the 3 colors, but the blood sort of dripping down it. I mean, obviously, it's a fairly easy choice because it's such an iconic like sort of imagery that they're using, but it makes this point like, no, she can do this, and it's not just that it's a cool moment in concept, but it's what it means for the start of the whole story. That wait, well, why did she miss then?
Right.
So it opens up this door of speculation that's just fascinating. So there you go. Best cover of the week. I suppose I'll go first with this one. There's a few good ones. I'll appreciate the spookier variant for Wonder Woman. I'm not always into the Wonder Woman variants like you, Connor, are, but I did like the Rorschach variant where he's standing in the rain and the mist and the city. I thought it looked good. Justice League's alright as well, the variant, but I'm going to have to go with the Art Germ Festival of Heroes cover. It's Cassandra Cain.
Look at this.
I mean, it was almost the Rorschach variant, but ultimately I had to go with the casket and the front cover treatment here.
Oh yeah. Oh, that is good. I don't even like Art Germ as much as you do, but that is a good cover.
So sometimes these faces are a bit too on the cute side, and it is virgin on that, but I do love. So something that doesn't be talked about enough is texture of material. I love the look of the texture of the suit.
Yeah. Well, there's that, and just her confidence as someone's pulled a knife on her. Just that smirk, and you're just like, this guy's done. He doesn't even know it. Like, it gets across real well.
So what's yours?
Mine's the Wonder Woman cover. It's a Middleton. It's very spooky. She's in the land of the dead. She's got that green behind it. It's really good.
Cool. Art of the week. What you got?
Any question? I mean, there's a lot of good art.
Yeah, it's Fornes. Yeah,
it really is a co-lead led book. I feel like as much as I want to give credit to King, Fornes putting it onto the page as effectively, like they're working so well together. Every time it has to be Fornes until he lets me down, and hasn't been yet.
Or until there's just extreme competition that just steals it away. But that would be impressive.
But even then, a lot of the art that came up this week, it was in smaller chunks. So there was Festival of Heroes, Urban Legends. It's not a full 40-page book that's consistent across the board. Wonder Woman was close, and maybe Milonogiannis for Future State Gotham. But, if that was colored, maybe. No, that's not true. I wouldn't be close to Fornes. It's Fornes. But still.
Yeah, it's Fornes for me too. I mean, there's no competition for me this week on that. All right, top 5. Go for it.
All right, number 1 is Rorschach. 2 is, I don't even remember what I gave the rest of them. It's been a long show. 2 I'll give to Superman. 3 Festival of Heroes, 4 Wonder Woman, and 5 Urban Legends? Yeah. I can't remember. Let's just say that.
Yeah, number 1 for me is Rorschach, pretty easily. After that, I give a lot of 7s and 7.5, so I'm going to have to think about this a little bit more than I normally do. I feel like Despite the disappointment of the wacky choice not to have color in Future State Gotham, I think I might put that in number 2. But there was a lot of things really close together at that point. I'll give then Batman the Detective, then Justice League Last Ride, and then I think Superman maybe at number 5 is probably where I'm going to. Actually,
very different list this week.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Festival of Heroes, but I don't know where to place that because it's such a big anthology.
That's why I put it in the middle. Yeah, so because there's again nothing in there that I really disliked. So
yeah,
but yeah,
but there's a that's a weird one. I'm gonna classify that as unrankable and just sort of give the top 5 I've given. But there you go. That is the best books of the week from us. So, what is coming next week, you may ask? So, Matt will not be here next week. It'll be a Connor. So, sorry to everyone for that. I know it's a heartbreaking realization. But coming...
Oh, no!
Yes, coming next week. And Matt's just realized what he's missing. Next week, we have The Flash 770, which has been surprisingly, promising in ways.
Yeah.
Nightwing issue 80.
It wasn't that one.
Oh, it's not that one. Justice League 61, so more Bendis Justice League. We get Catwoman 31, another great book that Matt has to miss. Oh, this is what he's upset about. Wonder Girl issue 1, the first Yara Flor solo book.
That's my Yara.
And oh well.
Well, just know that would be my number 1 because I'm a self-parody at this point. All those covers. There's a Campbell cover. There's an Evely cover.
Let me finish the list. We also have Legends of the Dark Knight issue 1 coming out, which is the kind of modern interpretation of the classic book. So we have Batman Fortnite 0 Point issue 3, if you care. Superman Red and Blue issue 3, Truth and Justice issue 4, and Looney Tunes 260 if that's your bag. So yeah, I might try that Legends of the Dark Knight, just given that there is less books next week. It's a quieter.
Yeah, it seems like a hell of a lot less.
Yeah.
Wanted to catch up on Flash, there'd be less pages than there was this week.
I think Flash is worth it. I think you'd like the last issue as well.
Yeah.
Flash overall. So yeah, Legends of the Dark Knight will be my 6th book, and then they'll do a Patreon book next week. So yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, I might change my mind next week when Connor suddenly tells me we have to record on a weird day again.
Yeah.
But we'll see. But there you go. That's what's coming next week from DC Comics. I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers. If I can get a hold of myself, I'm over here. My body's like breaking down because it's like, where's food? I want food. So yes, thank you to our Patreon producers. Thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Board Now, Al Tribesman, Christopher Moy, David Brown, and Stanley. Not Stanley.
Stanley. Excelsior.
They are all Patreon producers, which is the $20 or more tiers on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You can, of course, support us over there, though, for as little as $1 per month if you want a nice little warm, fuzzy feeling to help keep all the content coming. The $5 tier in particular, you get early access to the show by a day, so go check it out if you're interested. You can support us, though, for free by simply hitting like and subscribe and commenting on the YouTube channels. Of course, the full show goes on MailFuzz TV. The broken up version of the show, though, which goes out over the next week, goes up on the Comics from the Multiverse YouTube channel. So go have a look at those as well if you want to. You can also rate the podcast on iTunes or whatever podcast app or feed you get your podcast from. Give us 5 stars and a review on there. That helps us out too. Otherwise, catch us on the Twitters at DC Comics Podcast, and feel free to share us out on there as well. Also a big help. All these things, every little bit does help. So yeah, that is pretty much the show then. That is 253. And despite Matt's best efforts, still a meaty episode.
I tried. I really did.
There was no way that it was going to be a short episode. I mean, even without the news. Like if there was news, this would have been one of the 3.5 hour mammoths.
I wish I were the Rorschach. I could have been like, all right, Festival of Heroes, I gotta go. But you put it at the end.
Yep.
Because you're savvy. Oh.
Yeah.
Shoot.
So
man, if we had Connor too, it'd have been extra long. So good thing he would have had to work.
Good thing Connor wasn't here.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
That's a t-shirt. Good thing Connor's not here.
Yeah. Conroe. Good thing CR twit.
Oh my god. Next week's covers are tough because there's a Frisian cover that has Poison Ivy on it. Catwoman.
Socially distanced from CR21. That's the
yes
premise of this episode. All right, so thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
Hockey playoffs this weekend too, so go Knights go.